This episode brought to you by Audible. Audibletrial.com/horrorvirgin for 30 days free and a book to get you started. For your book recommendation, I'm just going to say Jen, although we all know what it's going to be.
Yeah, shockingly, I am recommending it today for this episode. I think it might be the third time I've recommended it. The Audible version is read by Steven Weber, and it's a really great Audible version of it. So check it out.
Check it out, guys. Go to audibletrial.com/horrorvirgin for 30 days free and a book to get you started and make that book it. You know, Mikey, you might have been able to finish it if you had someone just read it to you.
Yeah, Steven Weber will read it to you.
Well, surprisingly, I got to the end and I hated it.
Did
Imagine
you get to
that.
the end?
This episode also brought to you by Nick B.
Hey, Nick B.
Fun fact about Nick B.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he is married.
Ooh.
Whoa, look at that.
Happily.
Well done,
So,
Nick B.
back
Making
down,
it
Todd.
work.
But instead of a wedding ring, he got the Death Star tattooed on his ring finger.
Oh,
nice.
that's awesome. But what did your wife get?
She got an X-Wing on hers.
Oh, gosh. That would be funny.
It would be funny. She's the light side, he's the dark side. Well, this episode also brought to you by
John. Hey, John.
Let me tell you the truth about John. I got some anonymous emails from Noah.
Nice.
Noah knows.
Anonymous emails from someone I'm outing right now as Noah.
Point taken. Noah reports that John bullied kids in elementary school.
What?
Why?
This was like 2 years ago.
How old is he? Is he in middle school?
He was an adult when this happened.
Oh my God.
He just went and yelled at children?
I guess that's like socially acceptable down there.
Yeah, things are different in Australia.
Yeah,
I honestly
I
don't
don't
know.
know.
This episode also brought to you by the lovely
Rebecca. Hey, Rebecca.
Hey, Rebecca, are you a cat? Because I'm feline a connection.
Aww.
Ooh, meow. I like that one.
Yeah.
It's real good.
okay.
I'm an animal lover, Mikey. You might not know that about me.
Are you?
Yeah.
Don't you live with like 17 animals?
There are 5 cats and 2 dogs. Guys, check out Rebecca's Etsy store at Straight On Tell Disney. I don't know if it's etsy.com/Straight On Tell Disney or if you just go there and search Straight On Tell
You got to
Disney.
get yourself some of those Mickey Mouse ears. Or you're going to be having those Mickey Mouse tears.
Oh, no one wants Mickey Mouse tears. This episode also brought to you by Matthew.
Hey, Matthew, we're so excited you're joining the party.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining the Burn It Down level. And as always, reach out to us. Let us know what you want Mikey to do for your weekly shout out. I think striptease.
Oh.
What?
Yeah.
That'll play great on a podcast.
Oh, it will.
I'm taking it off right now.
Oh, my God,
Oh,
Mikey.
God. Oh, no.
Mikey.
This is where you put the 50, Todd.
Ooh. I'm putting the bill in my mouth.
Oh, gross. Guys,
Work
it's
for it.
terrible. Please tell them to stop. Matthew, reach out and say, please never do this again.
Oh,
Gross. Well, welcome to our Patreon, Matthew. On that note.
I'm sorry I haven't showered in a while.
Ugh, it tastes like it. Guys, Jen's face is so gross right now. It's amazing. Oh, wow.
My favorite part about ads is just making me angry.
Yeah.
It is the best. Last but not least, this episode also brought to you by Carl.
Yeah. Now, you know Carl, right?
I do.
How do you know Carl?
Biblically.
Carl and I go way back to my Twitch days.
Ooh.
Yeah, like years and years I've known Carl.
What's Twitch?
It's a website where you watch people play video games.
Oh, yeah?
It's for the millennials.
Sounds fantastic.
Yeah, it was awesome. He was very supportive then and now. Oh, yeah, so if you wanted to watch him stream, because he streams too, it's twitch.tv/CarlosMOL.
Yeah, check him out. He's
So, yeah,
awesome.
He is a lot of fun. He did some streams with his wife a little while back.
Yeah.
Not sure if he's still doing that, but check it out. Find out. Let me know.
Burn It Down, people. Thank you so much for supporting us. It really means a lot to us.
And if you want your very own Burn It Down Patreon shout out, join the Patreon at patreon.com/horrorvirgin for a bunch of great perks or whatever.
We'll make up a bunch of shit about you, or we'll shout out something that you want to plug.
Carlos also does guitar lessons.
Ooh.
Little side hustle. I know a lot about Carl. We go way back. He's a good guy. I like him a lot.
Yeah, he's nice.
Carl, I'm going to bring in the theme music just
in your
for you.
honor. Yeah, thanks.
Oh, wangy, wangy.
So I went to therapy last week.
Oh, shit.
Welcome to the Horror Virgin, everyone.
This is not even the story.
I'm Jen.
I'm Mikey.
And I'm the Horror Virgin Todd, which means I don't like watching scary movies, but this time you guys drug my sad ass to the theater and we watched It Chapter 2. Now, you guys have both read this book, right, Mikey? And Jen, correct me if I'm wrong, like 7-8 months ago when Mikey joined the podcast, he said, I'll read it before it comes out.
I think it
You
was
remember that
when we did
conversation,
the
right?
first episode. Yeah,
Was it?
I do. Yeah.
How long ago was that?
I don't know. It was months ago.
Man, it feels like
It
a
was
long,
like
long
the time
time.
frame it would take you to read that book 4 or 5 times.
Sure. I mean, it's a long book.
It is a long
Yeah,
book.
but I mean, you have, 9 months?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mikey, how many times did you read it?
Let's have a conversation. I lack of 140, 50 pages.
You're close.
Yeah. So,
So
you're
close.
You're
like
so close.
900.
I stopped reading it 5 times, read other complete books, and came back.
Wow.
I did not like the book. And I think the 2 movies together did a better job than the book does.
Well, you also, okay, that's fair. You didn't finish reading the book. Jen, I know you've read it many times.
Oh, yeah, I've read it probably
and
5
you
or 6
love
times.
the book.
I do
right?
love the book.
This will be interesting because, Mikey's read the book, hated it. Jen read the book, loved it, and I don't know how to read. So this should be a
That's why
pretty
you get
interesting.
Audible.
Yeah, absolutely. Stephen Watkins reads it. What's his name?
Stephen Weber.
Whatever.
Stephen Hawkins? I really liked the second movie. I didn't think it was as scary as the first.
Agree.
But I do think it did some really good things.
Yeah.
And it wrapped it up really well. And it kind of felt like a horror Harry Potter trilogy. Like, yeah.
I was thinking some Horcrux
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I can see that.
I really liked how it wrapped everything up, and I think it'll live on because I think it's one of the best things that I've seen horror do in a while as far as like story.
It's got so much heart, and I feel like we're not seeing a lot of that in horror. I really enjoyed this movie a lot. I didn't like it as much as the book, but it felt like the book. Like the heart of the book, I feel like they got right. I have some problems with it.
Well, that's why I love the movie, because I feel like getting to the heart of the book trims out all the crap I didn't like about the book.
Yeah. Trims the fat, as it were.
Oh, yeah.
That fat being Ben. We'll get there. I'll say this, though. Didn't like the ending because the ending, to me, ruins the whole metaphor. But we'll get there.
See, I liked the ending, and it made the
disagree.
metaphor.
All right.
I'm glad you liked it, though, and you liked it, too?
No.
Oh.
I mean, I think it's a great movie. Amazing cast. All of them did a great job. Hated it. Would never watch it again.
Because it scared you?
Yeah, it scared the shit out of me.
Did it scare you as much as the first one?
No, it did not. But the first one I gave a 9, I believe, on the scary
Right.
scale. And spoiler alerts for later,
Uh-oh.
it's going to be close.
Uh-oh.
All right, let's get into it.
So we start with Todd being terrified when the sound got turned on in our movie
Can
theater.
we not talk about stuff that happens
the preview
before
comes on
the
and talk
movie? That's not fair. Okay, so we were in there, and they were playing like the commercials beforehand, and there was just no sound. And then the first trailer just started out of nowhere. It was loud. It scared the shit out of me.
It did. It was really funny.
You guys are mean.
Then I said the first jump scare of the movie.
It wasn't even. It was the movie. This doesn't count.
So we start with the kids singing a British nursery rhyme called Oranges and Lemons. And then we start seeing flashbacks to the end of the movie with Bev sitting.
End of the first movie.
Yeah, the end of the first movie. Yeah. With Bev talking about visions she's having.
Yeah.
Visions of them as adults. And we find out later it's of them dying.
Yeah, it's how
as
they die.
adults.
Yeah.
That wasn't in the first movie.
No, there's a lot of flashback. Well, maybe not a lot.
No,
but there's
there's a
a
lot of
good number of flashbacks to the kids from the first movie, and none of that stuff was in the original. Was in the first? Yeah.
It's not, but they did a really good job of shooting it because it felt like it
It did.
was.
Yeah. So Bev is like, I see dead people.
No, she goes,
and
"I've
they're
seen you."
you.
Yeah.
She's like, I've seen you all as adults. And Stan was like, what did I look like? She's like, taller?
Yeah.
Because really, she saw him kill himself.
Yeah, dead in a bathtub. Yeah. And then she said, Richie, you grow into your looks. But it was nice to see the kids together again because that is my favorite part of the first movie.
Yeah.
And I'm glad there was a lot of that in the movie. And then we hear Mike's VO scenes talking about Derry, and we're seeing scenes from Derry, and it's just kind of, I was like, oh, we're back in Derry. It warmed my heart.
VO meaning voiceover.
Voiceover, sorry. Yeah. All right. Then we see 27 years later at the bottom. Dun, 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 dun.
And Sarah Connor shows up.
Dude, and we saw a Terminator preview. And
That was awesome.
Yeah.
So the next thing we see is the Dairy Carnival Days.
Dairy Days, yeah.
Canal Days, sorry.
Yeah.
Festival. And then this is the first kill that actually takes place in the book, you mean?
It is, yeah.
Gotcha.
And this is
After Georgie.
This is Adrian Mellon, yeah.
Right, but it's the first of this adult,
Yeah.
The adult
adult
cycle.
showing up.
Jumps around each chapter or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's Adrian Mellon, and he's at the carnival, and he's with his boyfriend, and they're just being themselves, a couple in love in public, and there are some assholes who have an issue with it. And Adrian, he's really sweet. He like lets the girl, it's the birthmark girl.
Yeah.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah,
I thought I recognized her and I couldn't remember. Okay.
But yeah, no, it is the birthmark girl. And he gives her the toy that he won from shooting the clown mouth and blowing up the balloon. Yeah.
It's really sweet. And
it is very sweet, yeah.
And then he puts the hat on, which is out of the book. And then we've got, this scene is almost exactly like the book. Yeah.
It's pretty brutal, man. Those four
brutal.
guys who beat up the two? It's 3 guys. So those 3 guys kind of follow the couple out.
Right.
And then they sort of confront them. And
it's a hate crime. They beat him up for being
definitely
gay.
Absolutely a hate crime.
I honestly thought the guy was going to die when they threw him over the bridge because he's like passed out.
Right.
He throws someone passed out into water, they're going to drown.
Yeah. And,
they're dead.
It is brutal. Like they linger on him, punching him over and over again. It really is.
It's pretty rough, man.
It is.
One of the members of the couple was from, I think, New York. The other one was from Derry.
Yes, yeah. And they do say he grew up here.
Right. And then the other people were also just from Derry.
Yeah.
And horrible people.
So they beat him half to death, throw him off the thing.
Well, and his boyfriend goes and runs down trying to help him on some level. And then you see, like, from the point of view of the person who was thrown in, he's like bobbing up and in and out of the water. And then you see Pennywise and he's like, help me. And I'm like, you don't want to get help from him then.
Right.
You do not want to go there.
Help you. And he just takes a big chunk out of like right under his armpit.
Oh my God. I hated that so much.
What I loved was all the balloons floating around the river. I thought it was so cool. And so then Mike,
he had a much bigger role in this movie.
He did, but I'm still mad about what he did with his role. Yeah.
Fair enough.
We can talk about it.
We'll talk about it, yeah.
So Mike he's got a police scanner and he hears that there's a body found in the river and he goes down and he sees the scene of the crime. He sees a little piece of the balloon there. And then he walks through and he sees on the side of the bridge, it's written, come home, come home, come home, come home. Yeah.
Now he knows that it's every 27 years, right?
Because
they learned that in the first movie.
Right.
They
so
do.
So he knows to expect it, but he's been preparing for this.
He has. And they go, and that is different in the book, the way he prepares. Yeah. So in the book, he's like researching and he's interviewing people who have lived in the town forever. And so the cycle repeats itself.
They sort of touched on that in the movie.
Yeah. But there's all these little interludes. And I think we talked about that in the first episode, but that's how he knows to expect it this year.
Yeah.
Because it's a cycle and we've seen versions of the cycle since like the 1800s.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he knows it's coming. And in the book, there's a lot more lead up to this. Like there are a couple
Mike
of kids
holds
that
off
disappear.
calling until he's like knows for sure.
Right.
What happens is in the book, the boyfriend makes a police statement. He finds 2 mentions of the clown in the police statement.
Yeah.
That leads him to call everybody.
Okay.
And look, as much as I say, well, in the book, there was a little more to it. They made some smart cuts to this movie because if they had put everything in it, it would have been 9 hours long.
Yeah.
And fun fact, the original cut of this version was 4 hours.
Oh, no.
Yeah, they cut like an hour
and
out.
it still drags at the beginning.
It I love it, but that's because I'm seeing this book come to life. I'm happy with what they cut out though.
So anyway, Mike starts to, news team assemble through the cell phone, right?
And this is a lot longer in the book.
Yeah, I was so grateful it was short.
40, 50 pages for each character in the book.
For each
character, Todd.
I love it so much.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we get a lot more backstory.
Here's what I first
horrible.
stopped to read another book.
Yeah. Who's he call first? Bill?
Bill.
He calls Bill first. Yeah. And Bill is a famous Hollywood writer.
Uh-huh.
Because apparently, and I learned this, if you're from Derry but moved away from Derry, you're fucking rich and famous.
So
No.
it goes into it in the book.
If you have overcome an evil clown in Derry and moved away from Derry, you are really successful.
In the book, Mike explains that it touched them and wants them not to come back. So it helped them be successful or some shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
What I love about this movie is the running joke of Stephen King writes bad endings throughout the whole book.
I liked that too.
Oh, it was
The
awesome.
whole movie.
And Stephen King's in the movie, and in that scene, he says it.
Yeah,
I thought that was awesome. Actually, when we were leaving, Natalie, who's an actress, was like, Stephen King did a pretty good job in that movie.
He did.
Like,
I mean, he's just playing himself, basically.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that is a running joke about his endings.
Yeah.
And I think partly is because this is a particular book that gets a lot of shit for its endings.
I think what you meant to say, it's a running truth about his endings.
Yes,
But yeah,
I agree.
absolutely.
For all his books, yes.
For all his books. Okay, let me say for the record about Stephen King's endings. If you have read the book, you are allowed to think whatever you want about the ending.
Oh, Mikey. Another 150 pages shy of a book.
But exactly, yeah. But and look, as long as you're not an asshole about it, I'm not going to be mad if you disagree with me because
Mikey.
everybody's entitled to their opinion.
All right, so let's we'll get
but yeah,
there
I
when we
love
get
that
there. Let's
running
move on.
thing.
Anyway, it's a running joke that Bill writes he writes books and they become movies.
And
Right.
then nobody
Novels.
liked the ending
No
of
one
this
likes
one
the
book.
endings of any of his
I
books.
did like how he goes in because Bill is a writer, right? He's like in his trailer, trying
He's
to write.
adapting his book to the
Right.
screen.
And then he walks on set and his wife is there and she's clearly an actress in it, right?
Yeah.
And then out of nowhere, this director slides down from the top of the frame in like the director's chair, but it's like the camera's
Yeah.
attached to it and it's like moving
It's
around
like
and
he's
shit.
fucking Galinda or something.
Oh,
Just
so,
descending.
the Good Witch, yeah. Except he's bad because he's like, I loved your book, but the ending's shit.
I lied to you.
Yeah, I lied to you that I liked it. Then Bill gets the call, right? Bill gets the call in that scene and talks to Mike, and it seems like he does not remember Mike that well.
Right.
And it seems like everyone, which we come to understand why, and I'm sure if you've read the book, you know
Yes.
why, but I didn't. I thought that they would still remember because
Right.
I remember shit that happened to me when I was a kid, and I didn't have anything traumatic like a clown trying to kill me. So,
Right.
yeah, I mean, I thought they would all remember, but because they have been away, they have forgotten.
Right.
And I'm sure that has to do with it making them successful, making them not have
Right.
kids, trying to keep them away. If they remembered about their promise, they definitely would have come back.
Right.
But it seems like Mike has to do a little bit of extra work to get them to come back.
He does. And also their scars that they made at the end when they did their super unsafe blood oath
Yeah.
start to come back when Mike calls.
And then who's the next person who gets a call?
It's Eddie.
So Eddie gets a call from Mike, and Eddie is driving what appears to be around New York City,
Yes.
talking to and I'm
His
only going to
wife.
say this because they make jokes about it in the movie, his larger-than-him wife, right?
Who is basically his mom 2.0.
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
Super concerned about his safety, and he's talking about how I do risk analysis. Believe me, I'm much safer like driving in the rain
Right.
and not talking to you than I am talking to you right now. So he hangs up on his wife. Mike calls him, and he's like,
You gotta come back."
You gotta come back to Derry."
And he gets in a car wreck.
And he does, yeah.
Yeah.
And I do like how they go through all this real quick.
Shit, yeah, and then it cuts to Bill Hader throwing up. This is going to be
puking on the
confusing.
camera.
Sorry. Bill Hader is Richie.
Yes.
My mistake. So it cuts to Richie like throwing up behind a club.
Basically on the lens of the camera, though.
You don't see him getting the call. You just see him moments after getting the call throwing up and then going on stage. I really like that scene. It was very Aaron Sorkin-esque because it tracks him from outside throwing up over the balcony railing or whatever, and then all the way in, and he's like, "Get me a scotch" or whatever. And someone
Right.
comes up with scotch and a mint, and he's like, "Well, that was fast." And he's like drinking, and then goes on stage.
It
and
was
then he
like an
bombs.
Aaron Sorkin walk and talk.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was. I liked it a lot.
I did too. Yeah,
And
it was
listen, I love Aaron Sorkin. So
And I love Bill Hader, and he really was awesome.
he's so good.
Yeah. And so then
good.
he says his name is Richie Trashmouth, and when he says that, it kind of starts to come back to him.
Yeah, and it ruins, or maybe not ruins the set, but it cuts away from his stand-up set.
But he says, he's like, oh, fuck, I forgot the joke. Like on
Yeah.
stage. I thought it was
Yeah.
pretty funny. All right. And then we cut to a boardroom that says Hanscom Architecture or something underneath it. And we see
Scum?
Hanscom. That's Ben's last name.
Oh, is it? I think you're
Hanscom.
incorrectly saying Jerry O'Connell.
Oh, yeah.
I refuse to call him Ben in this movie.
You know,
He
there
is
was
Jerry
a lot
O'Connell.
of talk about him playing older Ben in the movie, and they were
No,
talking,
he's too old now. I mean, he did have that life
Yeah, he did.
because he was big in Stand By Me, and then he got
was.
super sexy.
And
have you
super
not
hot.
seen Sliders, Mikey?
Yeah, dude.
Sliders. It's like Quantum Leap
I've
for
seen
millennials.
Sliders, okay? It's terrible after like the second season.
It is.
He
You're
was
right.
also in Scream 2.
I haven't seen
He's
it.
super dreamy.
Oh, I love him so much.
Yeah.
What is with you today?
I'm gonna carve a T on his stomach.
Ooh.
For Todd. Gross.
Yes.
Oh.
Anyway, so I guess he's
All
the
right.
lead architect of this
Well,
firm.
but we see a portly gentleman leading the meeting, and I think we're supposed to think that that's Ben. And then
I've read the book.
I have read the book, but then they shift it over, and we see Super Dreamboat now Ben in
Yeah.
his like teleconferencing in from his house.
Yeah, Ben found out the magic of cardio and crunches.
He did, and it goes into a lot of detail about that in the book, and I enjoy that.
Oh,
part.
yeah? We learned from this scene that Ben is like the head architect. He has all the good ideas, and he's still really pining for Bev.
Yes,
Because he kept his yearbook
Yeah.
that only Bev signed.
he kept his Horcrux in his wallet all
Yeah.
these years.
He carried it with him, Mikey.
He did. It
He
still
wrote-
isn't over.
Yeah, he wrote you every day for a year, just like the Notebook.
Yeah.
Always,
And then it's Stan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Stan, his wife, lovely. They live in a big, beautiful house. They booked a trip to Bermuda,
Yeah, somewhere.
Bahamas.
But they're
Come on,
not
pretty
gonna
mamas.
go.
I don't know, but maybe it was Key Largo.
Buenos Aires.
Montego.
It was
It was Buenos Aires.
Buenos
You're
Aires.
right. Nailed it. I was thinking Beach Boys. You were actually spitting fact.
Right.
And then he immediately gets the call, and he's
Yeah.
like, Mike, oh, it's great to hear from you. Oh, he's back. Okay, cool. I'm definitely not going to kill myself. See you tomorrow. Bye.
Yeah, but he seems like he remembers a little more than the other.
That's what I. Okay, so I didn't finish the book.
I feel like he does too.
That's not going to come back in the end.
That doesn't come back like the letters.
No, that's a thing that I'm pissed at the movie about because they made Stan the heart of it instead of Mike. Mike was the one that had all of that emotional connection.
All right, cool.
In the book. Yeah, those letters are not in the book.
But it did seem like Stan just like remembered everything. He's like,
Yeah.
no, fuck that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they give like in the book, Stan's story is really long. He's the first one that gets called in the book too.
Oh yeah.
Well, yeah, like right after Adrian Mellon, it's Stan, and so Stan gets the call, and it's like you can see it on his face, and so he goes upstairs, and we're starting to see flashbacks of the ceremony where they all cut their hand and they swear, and then he kills himself in the bathtub, and it is really sad.
Yeah, and the guy he's only in it for like one scene. He does a great job in those scenes.
He really
though.
does,
I think
yeah.
he's in 2 scenes actually, but he does a good job. Yeah.
Well, and so in the book, this happens before we even know what Mike is calling about.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so this is like a significant part of the book because it lets you know what the stakes are and why they're. It doesn't tell you why they're afraid, but it tells you how afraid they are.
Wow. So you go through the whole book knowing that he died at the very beginning of the.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's what pisses me off.
And none of y'all told me.
And so now Bev gets called.
Oh yeah, she does.
Yes, and she wakes up with her terrible husband.
Bev getting called in the book is like its own novel. It takes like 200 pages.
It is, of course, because of how she grew up. She married an abusive man, and he is very abusive in the
Not that you
book.
have to repeat the cycle if you grew up that way, but you're right.
It happens a lot.
Yeah, she did marry a horrible dude. It was interesting though, because I like the way they did it in the movie. I haven't read the book. She gets the call, and like it's night. It's like late at night, so she goes off away from where she's sleeping and her husband's sleeping. Just I thought to be polite, and she's like sort of like whispering or whatever. And then he seems super supportive when she's packing, and then it like turns, and you're like, oh my god, this dude's the worst.
Yes,
dude. And when she he punches her in the face. How dare you hit her in the face?
There's something really profoundly disturbing about that scene.
Really. Yeah.
I think what you mean to say is there's something really profoundly disturbing about domestic abuse.
Yes.
Yeah.
And let me say, because that scene in the book means a lot to me. There's a lot more of the story. It's a very empowering scene. I'm okay with what they did with it. I wish there had been more, but I understand why there wasn't more. But they also talk about the beginning of that relationship and how it kind of led to it. So there's just a lot more to it. But I will say Jessica Chastain doesn't really have a whole lot to do in this movie, but you can see how afraid she is in this scene. Like she does this amazing job of just kind of scooting back sometimes, where you can tell she's married to an abusive guy.
I mean, I love Jessica Chastain. She's amazing, and she's an amazing actress. I don't know what it's like in the book. And I know like relationships can't start out being like traumatic and abusive. Some probably do, but usually that shift happens slowly over time. And then it gets to the point where your husband punches you in the face, and then you beat him in the face with pictures, leave your ring on the stairs, and bolt.
Well, and what I like about the way they do it in the book is that that's not the first time he's hit her. That is just the first time she's really fought back.
Yeah.
And so you see a lot more of that. And I
It
think
seemed like that in the movie.
And it seems in the book like a turning point. Like when she gets the call from Mike, it's like she remembers all the strength that she had.
Yeah.
And I understand why. And it's okay that they cut it. Tom is her husband, and he's a much bigger part in the book. And I'm okay with them having cut all of that part.
Each of these characters and each of us have like something in the past that you carry with you that comes up unexpectedly in the future that you have to deal with continuously, and it takes many forms. And I don't know, I really like that idea, and I took that a lot from the book and the movie, and I will give it to you, and I see why you love the book because of that. I just think it could have been like focused more.
So Bev beats the shit out of her husband, leaves her ring, and bounces.
So now they're walking into the Barrens, and I love it, and I was so happy to see them
They're walking into what?
To the Barrens.
Okay.
So that's where they used to play when they're kids.
Is that where they cut their hands?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Oh, we see a bunch of water flow out, and then we see Henry Bowers.
Oh, yeah.
Because he has not actually died.
Yeah, but that was, it doesn't, does it say 27 years earlier?
No, it's cutting back and forth very quickly.
Yeah,
because
that was Todd turned to me and he's like, what is going on? I'm like,
what the fuck?
That's Henry in the future.
Well, no, it's not. It's Henry
It's Henry
from
in the past.
first. Yeah.
And that's one thing I'll say. Once I figured out how quickly they were going to cut back and forth, I really enjoyed how they did it.
It's always the kids they cut back to, so it's very clear because it's the kids from the first movie or the adults in this one, so it's fine.
And I think they do a great job of mirroring the way the book does that.
So they show Henry Bauer kind of coming up out of the sewer or just the water, right? And then he walks back to his house and he gets arrested by the cops who were just there investigating his dad's murder.
Yeah, and he gets pinned for all of the child murders.
Oh, does he?
In the original, yeah.
They don't really say that in the movie, but that makes sense. Yeah.
But yeah, and then we see him in his asylum.
Went into a mental health facility forever.
Well, not forever per se, but until he sees a red balloon.
Yeah. So he's seen, child Henry has seen the red balloon as he's getting arrested, and then we cut to adult Henry seeing it out the window. I like that transition,
man.
I did too.
I
thought that was so good.
And I love when you see these balloons and they don't flow with the wind like they should. They just stay in place. So this balloon is like tracking through the windows, and Henry's like walking around waving to it, and like smiling and like
he's
high-fiving.
Excited. He knows he's about to get out.
Exactly. And so he goes into his bedroom, and so he sees the balloon stuck underneath his bed, and he starts pulling on it, and it's not pulling.
This scared the shit out of me.
Oh, Todd, you were...
There were so many moments that got me.
We all knew what was happening on this bed.
So the balloon pops and we see old gross Patrick Hockstetter under the bed, and he's got the switchblade that Pennywise gave Henry in the first movie, and he's like crawling for it. It looks like he's about to like eat Henry, but he doesn't. He just hands him the switchblade.
Yes.
And then
he turns it around and like hands it to him.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
And he's like, oh, thanks. And then we get the Chinese restaurant. And this is my favorite part of the book because it's when they're all back together and they're reuniting and they're all happy and they're telling their stories.
Granted, this scene takes half the book because each of them goes around this is where the book lost me. Each of them goes around the table, have a flashback for 200 pages, and then it comes back to the Chinese restaurant.
Oh my God.
That's exaggerating a little bit, but not a whole lot. But I still love it. Some people would say I don't need this much backstory, but I love the backstory because I love the characters. Okay, so they're at the Chinese restaurant. They're all talking. And this is funny because Richie's asking who all got married. And he's like, oh, yeah, didn't you know I got married? Yeah, your mom and I are very happy.
Yeah, man, that scene, there looked like there were some genuine laughs at that scene where like James McAvoy that legit looks like he's just cracking up at stuff Bill is saying. Bill Hader is saying. Richie.
Yeah, Richie.
It's so funny. And it looks so genuine. And which could be just great acting because he's a great actor, but it looks like they were just cutting up on set.
So they're all sitting around having fun, kind of recapping their lives. Like, who got married? Ben lost a bunch of weight. And they're like, where's Stan? And in the book, Mike already knows that Stan's dead, but they don't know this yet. And so then they get the fortune cookies. So they're opening their fortune cookies. They're opening up their fortune. And I don't think this part was in the book.
No.
But everybody has just one word.
This wasn't in the book?
No.
This part wasn't.
This part wasn't in the book. The creatures were.
The creatures were in the book.
the creatures were stupid.
Well, that's why you can tell it was in the book.
Yeah. The fortune cookies.
What did I say about not being an asshole about it?
The fortune cookie part was well done. It was super like, oh shit.
Yeah. You mean the words in the fortune cookie?
Yeah, because we had just seen Stan kill himself. So like, awesome. It was just so well done. But like, they're all trying to find out, what their fortunes spelled out because everyone just had one word, and then they only have 5 words.
Yeah, because Bev's still holding her.
Right, and then we see Bev like crying, holding hers, and the word she has is Stanley.
Yeah,
and it's like, I guess Stanley couldn't cut it or whatever it worked out to be. But yeah, it was so good.
And what was funny is one time Eddie said, are they saying it like it or like it in the like a sentence?
I like that part too.
I've said that sentence.
But yeah, and then the fortune cookies become stupid little creatures, and it's really dumb.
I like it in the book. I don't know how much it worked. Although what I did like was them just destroying the room and then the waitress coming in.
Oh yeah,
like,
you know what's super unrealistic? If a waitress walks in on you smashing a table with a chair, and then you're like, oh yeah, can we go ahead and get the check, please?
Also, how did they not bust any of those fish tanks?
Yeah.
It just took me out of the movie. It was unrealistic that they would have smashed that much shit.
There were some moments that took me out of the movie.
I agree. And there were a couple of things that didn't quite work for me.
Yeah, and this was one of the things that didn't work for me.
I agree. It's not super believable, but I liked it.
But dude, the fortune cookie words So good.
Yeah.
I
I
thought
love
they
that.
changed all of it to that, and I was like, oh, that's a way better way to do this
I
scene.
kind of did too.
So then some of them are like, fuck this, I'm out.
Yeah.
And they like leave from the
But
parking lot.
Not before a kid walks up to Richie and says something.
Oh my God, this was so funny.
And then Richie just goes up and starts yelling
Hey,
at this
fuck you,
kid's
kid.
face. It was
Fuck
really
you, I'm not
funny.
scared of you. That's also the kid who dies in front of Bill.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the same kid.
So
That
that
kid
really
has a bad
happened?
week.
But so he's yelling at this kid, and it's a pretty funny moment. I like
It's
it. Yeah.
really any movie that yells at kids and like will cuss at kids and let kids cuss like they did in the first movie. I
Yeah.
like it.
Now they're all mad at Mike, and this is something that bugged me because they keep getting mad that Mike lied to them, and I just don't like that they said that so much because I don't think
I
that's
don't like
how
it either
it
because
feels in the book.
no one would come to this unless he actually told them what was happening.
Exactly.
No one's gonna be like, hey, come hang out with your. I need you to drop everything and reunion with your middle school friends.
Right. Oh, wait, what? We're not having a surprise party?
Like,
yeah.
when he
you
calls
would-
them initially in the book, he's just like, it's back. I need you to come. And then people are
Right.
like, what?
And they remember on
Yeah.
their way there. Yeah. Yeah. I just didn't like how they kept getting mad at Mike about this.
Right.
All right. So now we're at the baseball game, and
Is her name Vicky?
Vicky, yeah,
So
Victoria.
Vicky, yeah. But it's the girl who was given the stuffed animal from the couple at the beginning.
yeah, and she's got a big birthmark on her face. She's led away by a
Firefly.
by a Pennywise firefly. Yeah.
Well, sure,
It's
I
like
mean-
a magical one. Yeah.
Yeah.
The firefly leads her underneath the bleachers, and she's just following it because she's a kid, and she sees Pennywise at the end of under this bleacher tunnel, and she's like, "Fuck this! This is a crazy looking
Yeah,
clown."
we're in the dark and you're under here. Then no, this is not right. Stranger danger. I'm out.
Exactly. And then he starts playing on her insecurities and saying, people don't like me because of how I look, because she's got this birthmark on her face.
Yeah,
and I think
Mikey.
it's trying to connect to just be who you
I
are.
really connected to this.
Would that
little
have
girl.
worked on you, Mikey?
Yeah, I don't know if you guys know this because it's a podcast. But I have a birthmark on my face.
Yep. It's beautiful, Mikey.
My mom calls it my angel's kiss.
Oh, mama.
No, but Pennywise is like, they have this back and forth where he's like, I think my face is ugly. And she talks about her birthmark. And Todd turns to me, he's like, hey, you have a birthmark. I'm like, yeah, I fucking get it. I watched the movie.
Oh, and so little Victoria gets eaten by Pennywise.
Man, this
and it's sad.
scared the shit out of me because he's like, I'll blow that birthmark right off your face. You just have to come close. Come closer. Come closer. Let's count to 3. And then he counts to 2. She said 3. He like eats her face. Oh, it was very scary.
It was, yeah.
I hated
It's
it.
sad.
It was sad, yeah.
It goes without saying, anytime a kid dies, it's real sad.
The next thing that happens is we're back at Henry's mental living facility. I don't know what the right way to say it is, Mikey.
And he
You're gonna have to help us.
escapes.
Yeah,
He does.
Because he has the knife.
Well, so the big guard that was talking to him earlier comes up and he's got blood all over himself and his throat's been cut. And then we just see Henry walking out and gets into a car
So
with Patrick
did you notice the
Hockstetter.
fence was already cut? And
Yeah, because his henchman, who's Patrick Hockstetter from the first one, cut the fence for him.
it's not a zombie, Todd. That's it.
Is it it? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes sense. And he does try to kill the kids.
Now we're at the dairy house and they're all about to go leave because they're mad at Mike because he told them the truth and now they're just mad
Been
because they're
there.
scared.
Yeah.
As a Mike.
Oh, the people got mad at you?
Yeah, for telling
told
the truth. Yeah.
About John and other things.
Bev is talking about how she's had visions of all of them die because she knew Stan was
Yeah.
gonna die.
And because some of them are about to leave. Like,
Yeah.
Richie's like, fuck this, I'm out again. This is like the second time in the movie he's like about to leave. That's when she spills the beans to
Ben, because he's in love with her.
Yeah, and they have a little moment, but
They do. Meanwhile, Bill has gone to Mike's library attic room.
Yes.
And this is strange, but I actually like how they did it in the movie. And I'm
They did
glad
it differently in the book?
Yeah. There's
In
like
the-
a whole smoke lodge.
In
kind
the
of
book,
thing.
they like have visions as kids.
Yeah, and I'm fine with how they did it in the
okay.
book, but I think it worked. The way they did it for the movie works better than if they had tried to recreate it exactly.
It would
how
have been a
happened.
long ass flashback.
It
Yeah, I thought it was a little weird how Mike microdoses Bill, so he would have this vision of how to defeat it.
Yeah, another thing I didn't really like about Mike's character.
It reminded me of the movie Training Day when Denzel Washington gets Ethan Hawke to smoke PCP. Yeah, this movie's just like Training Day, bro.
Bill's starting to feel real weird, and this is when he starts talking like his character from Split a little bit, and he's kind of having
Well,
this
yeah, he's
like
drugged.
Right? Yeah,
Yeah.
he's having this hallucination, and this is where it came from, and it came from like another.
They never really
star.
explain it.
They don't, and I'm glad they don't. It's a little more nuanced than just him being an alien, but yeah, that's kind of the gist of
He's
it.
just
Again,
evil, essence evil, like the Balrog.
if you want to understand more about what it is, read the Dark Tower series.
Which is not in the 1,200 pages I've almost read.
No, it's like 1,400 pages of 7 other books. And it's pretty good. And then read my blog about it.
Yeah, I'll just Google this later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I Googled what is it, and it's just not working.
Did you capitalize the I?
And for some reason, it took me to that song,
What is it? That's their inspiration.
What song is that?
And so there's this whole backstory about how this Native American tribe understood this thing and they tried to defeat it, but they couldn't because they didn't really believe. And Mike like studied with them and did the whole smoke lodge thing with them.
And we see sort of flashes of that.
We
It's
do.
not like a flashback so much as they are just like little remembrances.
And I'm not crazy about that. That is
why
not
not?
in the book.
How do they figure out how to beat him in the book?
They go to the library.
They do, yeah.
Well,
and Mike does a bunch of research and interviews with old people from the town.
So as kids, they like interview, they like research, like how do we beat it? And they're talking like some people do smoke visions or whatever, and so like they do it in their clubhouse.
Yeah. And it's called the Ritual of Chud.
Yeah, they did say that.
Yeah, they did. And so that's how they kill it, is through the Ritual of Chud. So Mike is saying they don't believe me. Bill, I need you to be the leader and tell them that we have to go back and save them. And I think they're trying to make Bill a leader, and I just don't think it comes out.
In the book, he has a moment like this, but it goes better because he just goes, "Oh, I'm in to kill this thing. It still killed my brother, and I still want to murder it."
Right.
And I was like, "All right."
Yeah, that's good enough motivation for me. Let's
And
do
the others
this.
were like, "Yeah."
So now they're going through the Barrens, and they go back to their clubhouse, which was like an underground clubhouse that Ben had built for them.
I did like how he found it. He was like, the door should be around here somewhere. And he like jumps and falls through where the door was.
And it's really funny. They've got a Lost Boys poster in the corner, and I love it. So they're going into this place where they hang out, and they go into more detail about that in the book too.
I didn't think it was going to be in the movie because it was such a big part of the whole childhood story.
Right, yeah. I
But
didn't
it
think
wasn't
so either.
in the childhood
No, it
movie. It
wasn't.
wasn't in the
No.
first one
I
at
didn't
all.
think it was going to come out.
Yeah, I was surprised that it was in this one.
Well, and so this is when we start learning about what we've been calling the Horcruxes, which are not really in the book. So everybody's got their little...
Wait, they're not in the book?
No.
Those things exist in the book, but they don't have to get
don't have
them
to
and
burn
burn
them,
them.
yeah.
The way that ends is different.
Really?
Yes, that hairnet thing is not in the book at all. So they're in there.
Okay.
And I did like this part because Bill Hader is hiding in the corner of this thing and making these noises.
Man, I hated
Yeah,
that.
he does his it impression and then does the little dance, and I was like, "This is amazing."
So they find this can, and Stan had given them all hairnets, so spiders don't get in their hair. Which
Like
is
shower caps.
shower caps.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is considerate. 'Cause
It is
I don't
very
want spiders
considerate.
in my hair.
Yeah.
And this was another one of those little funny moments of like from the first movie where the kids are just kind of being kids and hanging out and having
Yeah.
fun together. And it worked, and I liked it.
I mean, it was like a clubhouse of kids, like from middle
Exactly.
school. Like I like
Right.
that part. Yeah. And this is where they're like, "Hey guys, go get your Horcruxes."
Right.
And then they all separate. Mike is like, "We have to go on our own and get our Horcruxes."
And Stan's asking them, do you think we'll still be friends when we're older?
And everyone's like, "Yeah, sure. I'm sure we will be." And then they're like, "Are your parents still friends with people they were friends with in middle school?"
Yeah.
And Bev's like, "What do you mean when you get older?"
Oh, yeah.
Because she knows.
So Mike sends them on their mission to dig up their
Yes.
Horcruxes.
Not dig up, but locate and find their Horcruxes.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you're looking at this as the metaphor that I saw in it, this is like confronting your childhood memories, and like really embracing them.
Yes, and I like this because Beverly's talking about her visions. She's like, eventually it kills them all because
Right.
if it infects them like a virus, and then eventually it kills them all, like I guess suicide.
Yeah. Well, and so they're also saying if we don't kill it in this cycle, we're not going to make it to the next
Yeah, because
cycle.
we're all
Yeah, because
gonna kill ourselves.
they would have been had they all lived in their 70s or whatever, right?
Now we're going on the walking tours, which is like a whole section of the book. That's what they
The
call
walking
it.
tours? Can I ask what do you mean by the walking tours? Because I don't
Okay.
remember any walking
They all
tours in the
split
movie.
up to go around town to find their like.
So
But those
the-
aren't tours. Like Bev goes to her house.
Okay,
It's
she grew
a
up at.
phrase they use in the book.
the reason they do is because the Horcruxes don't exist in the book. That is not a thing that they're searching for. But Mike does say, go walk around so you can start to remember more.
Okay.
So I think the tokens that they're getting are just kind of maybe a more physical way of showing.
Yeah, like a better way of telling the story.
Right. Huh. But they do all go around and start like having these memories. And a lot of these are the same. Like Bev goes back to her house and we see Mrs. Kirsch. And this scene I really enjoyed this scene in the book and the movie. And it's
Oh, is it because there's finally some nudity? Hello.
Todd, did you know porn exists?
What?
I gotta go. No, I mean, but yeah, we do finally get some nudity, and it's with a scene with Jessica Chastain.
but it is not Jessica Chastain.
Shh, I want people to go see the movie and then be like, I was lied to.
Oh.
I think this is one of the scariest scenes in the movie.
I think so too.
Good God, I hated it. Oh my God.
Had you seen the trailer?
Yeah, I had seen the trailer, but
It was
you
still
don't-
scary.
Yeah, you don't see some of this in the trailer. So yeah, so if you've seen the trailer, and hopefully, guys, if you haven't seen the movie, go see the movie before you listen to this. It's worth seeing.
It is,
and that's
yeah.
coming from me. I fucking hated it, but you should all see it. But she is like, hey, I used to live here, and Miss Kirsch, is that her name? Miss Kirsch lets her in, and she's like, yeah, let me make some tea or whatever. So she's like, go see the house. I'm gonna make us some tea. So Bev is walking around the house. She goes into her old room, I think, right?
Yeah.
She, vandalizes
She cuts
the
a hole in the
floorboards.
wall
Yeah.
of a stranger.
Yeah, and then she pulls out some cigarettes,
Key
her
thing.
latchkey necklace, and then that postcard from
Oh.
Ben. Anyway, so Bev gets her token or whatever it is, right? And then she goes back and is like talking to the Miss Kirsch, drinking some tea, and then she's like, "Oh, I put in some cookies that just finished. Let me go get them."
And we're also seeing flashbacks of young Bev
Yeah.
and her dad.
As he gets creepier and creepier.
And creepier, and just telling her a bunch of shit about how we're not sure what her mom did. This is different than the book, but her mom either killed herself or left, and her dad is telling her it's her fault because she's worthless.
I got the impression that she killed herself, but
I
it
kinda got
could
that
be
impression,
either or. You're
but they
right.
Don't
They don't really
specifically
address
say.
it.
But the metaphor that I saw in this was the narrative that people tell you about who you are. And her dad is telling her she's nothing and she's not as good as her mom and that she ruined her mom's life.
Man, I hated this scene.
Dude. Oh, yeah.
When
When
he-
sprayed all the perfume on her?
Yeah.
Oh, and then she hugged him.
Man, what else could she have done?
I know. Oh, yeah. She didn't want to hug him. Yeah. That's what was expected of her. That
Good
was,
Lord, that was terrifying.
it really
Yeah.
was.
They don't ever address it. I don't know if he actually got to the point where he was sexually assaulting her,
In the
but
book, he doesn't.
he was on that path.
Oh, yeah.
So when we cut back to Miss Kirsch and Bev talking, and Kirsch goes off to the kitchen or whatever, and then Bev starts looking at the photos, and she's like, "Oh, is this your family?" And she's like, "Yeah, my dad came over
My
here."
father.
Yeah, my father came
Straight
over
out of the
here from wherever with nothing but $14 in his pocket and didn't get handouts like you guys do nowadays. And then she was like, "Oh, what do you do?" Well, he worked in the circus. And then you see Bill Skarsgård.
Without
and-
so much makeup on.
Yeah, and it's like terrifying. And you see her behind Bev naked. You don't really see anything yet. Naked, like peeking around the corner and like walking across the thing. And
Very The Visit.
it is very The Visit, yes. And in this scene, this is what was in the trailer, right? And then in the trailer, you hear the go, 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 go. And then you see it in the movie, and it's just this naked, giant old woman with some
Yes.
swinging
Parts.
to her.
Giant. Like,
Yeah, she's probably like 8 feet tall. Either way, she's wrestling with a
this was the scariest
85-year-old
jump scare. It
naked
was.
8-foot woman.
and then she
Yeah.
runs out of the room and suddenly she's in some old 1700s house and she sees Pennywise putting his makeup on and saying, "You haven't been able to save them, Bev."
So yeah, this is where I get a little confused. So like, did Pennywise meet this guy back in the day and like steal his identity,
No.
like Equifax style?
Yeah, that's what happened. Pennywise came down on his asteroid thing, right? And then he emailed this dude and said, "Hey, I'm a Nigerian prince. My dad was dethroned, but I have all these water rights. If you'll send me your identity,
and he was
I'll
the first
pay
one
you."
to do it,
Yeah.
and so nobody knew to be looking out
Yeah,
for
and
it.
this is before that was a common thing, right? He was the
Right.
first person to fall for it. So
Yeah.
then he shows up as the clown, murders the clown, and
Does
then
it
just
explain
takes
the
his
end of the
identity.
book? Because I was like, oh, was Pennywise a real person? And then it took his identity.
No, he just, he shows up in some cycles as a real looking person. Because our next flashback is Richie.
Yay, baby.
So he's showing up at the movie theater and he's going to go play Street Fighter in the arcade game. And
Yes.
then we see his flashback, which is Finn Wolfhard, and I love him.
His name is Finn Wolfhard.
Finn Wolfhard. First name Finn, last name Wolfhard. Yeah,
That's not a terrible name.
No, it's great if you're a porn star. What's your last name? Wolfhard. He should have been a porn star in '83.
that's the 4th season of Stranger Things.
This escalated quickly.
All right.
Things get real strange.
They do, yeah. Well, they moved to another town, so what's he got to lose?
It's just called Stranger Thing.
Oh.
All right.
I'm out.
So Richie is flashing back. He gets a token, which is going to be his Horcrux.
I was amazed that machine still worked.
I know, me too.
Yeah.
All right, so he's flashing back to playing a video game with the guy.
Street Fighter, yeah.
Street Fighter. And now Henry Bowers comes out of the movie and starts using some homophobic slurs that I'm not going to use.
But it turns out that the guy he was playing Street Fighter with, who was very friendly with Mr. Wolfhard earlier, now is like, I'm not your boyfriend or whatever, because he knows Henry, because it's his cousin.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So he knows if he doesn't like alpha man out, that his cousin's going to make fun of him, and he doesn't want to get made fun of, so he deflects onto Finn Wolfhard.
Yeah.
It's a real intense situation for him just asking, like, hey, you want to play again? I'll pay for you.
I don't
Whoa,
feel like
Mikey, I'm not your boyfriend. Calm down.
Second date, call you back, text you back. No.
Yeah, listen.
But yeah, no, I agree. I don't think he was being like romantic. He wasn't like trying to touch him or anything. He was just
I mean, he's like 9.
Right. And until Henry started using those slurs, and then he got really like shocked and backed out, and they started talking about, I know your secret. Like, I didn't think anything about it. But this is the first time I started to think, Oh, and I really liked this part in the book. This is when he goes out and he sees the Paul Bunyan statue.
This was the scariest moment for me.
Yeah, so Richie goes out because he's been made fun of and he feels like
He's
a loser.
crying on a park bench.
Yeah.
He's crying on a park bench. He stares at the statue of Paul Bunyan.
Did it bother you that Babe wasn't with Paul Bunyan?
Let me tell you something. There's 50 pages of Paul Bunyan statue backstory in the book.
What?
We do see Paul Bunyan babeless.
Oh, do you think that's a metaphor? Because Richie doesn't like women slash
Where's
babes.
Babe?
Guys,
Maybe.
I need a shirt
you nailed it.
with an ox on it that says, "Where's Babe?" Beep beep Richie on the back.
So then we see the statue is gone. And then I think it's Kid Richie looks up.
It is Kid
like
Richie.
Right on top of his face with that like Pennywise mouth, but the babe
But
statue.
instead of teeth, it's like wood shards.
Yeah.
Oh, I
It's
hated
so
it.
cool.
Dude,
it
I
is
literally
really cool.
like jerked like at this
He
point.
tries to stab him down with his Paul Bunyan axe.
Yeah.
And then he opens his eyes and he's gone.
Well, he lays on the grass. He's like, it's not real. It's not real. It's
Yeah,
not real.
he has to convince himself it's not real, it's not real, it's not real. And then it cuts back to Bill Hader as Richie, and Pennywise is sitting on Babe's shoulder with a bunch of red balloons.
Yeah,
Right.
talking to Richie. Oh, because
Yeah.
he's like, I know your secret. I
Yep.
know
Right.
your secret.
Yep.
Oh.
And I really like how they did this because I was waiting for this moment for Richie to stand up and say, I'm gay, kind of like in Almost
yeah.
Famous, and I'm so glad that they didn't do that. Not because I don't want to hear him say that. I just think it would have been cheesy. And I like that they just implied it more than made it this big coming out.
No,
moment.
I was like, what is he talking about? And then I was like, did I not read this part?
No, that's not
Oh,
the
wait,
book.
so you like that storyline never gets resolved in the movie?
No, I think it does get resolved.
It does get resolved in the
No,
movie.
no, no. He never confides in anybody.
Well, no, but I don't think that's
He's still
what the
holding on to that
storyline
secret
is.
forever.
No, I think he's admitting it to himself.
You don't think he knows?
I think he knows, but I think he tries to hide it.
I
or
think
tries to
that's
run
his
from
it.
Yeah, that's
which
what he's
is
afraid of saying.
When he like finishes the carving at the end, that's him being like, this is who I am.
Yeah, I think so too. And I really like how they did it because I was waiting for him to just shout, I'm gay at the clown at the very end.
Because
and I'm
yes,
glad they
the
didn't
only other
do
way to
that.
do it is to be like yell at the other kids, I'm gay as an adult. And I think that cheapens the moment.
I
No,
think so
the better way to do it is when they're in the water at the end, be like, hey, I was in love with whatever his name was.
But I think they knew. I think they could all kind of feel it.
That's not how people work. He was just sobbing because he lost someone he loved. If
Yeah.
people had the insight to be like, I'm sobbing
But what
because
you're
I
saying
loved
is
him,
you liked it because he was still in the closet at the end.
I think it was a metaphor
No.
for him coming out of the closet.
to himself.
But he never came out of the closet. And he already
didn't
knew
say
he
it
was
to
gay.
other people, but I think there's more of the story.
Technically, he could have been out of the closet before he got the phone call and his friends just don't know.
Actually, you can't be because then it's not a secret.
I think the metaphor I saw was that he had been trying to hide that from himself and not really embrace who he actually is. And I think that's what he did. And just because he didn't come out to anyone else that we saw doesn't mean he still didn't have a transformation.
I think
So that's what
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Vehemently disagree. He's still keeping his secret at the end of the movie.
Maybe he goes out and starts talking about it in the world.
Yeah,
We
and
don't
that,
see
that
it.
could be.
Yeah.
But movies should show you.
Well, that might be part of the hour that was cut.
That's
Honestly,
true.
might be. Guys, the next part is Stephen King. Yay!
Oh my God, Stephen King's in this movie, and he's so good. So anyway, Bill is walking by like downtown Main Street Dairy,
And he sees Silver in
And he
the,
sees his
like,
bike.
the pawn shop. Yeah.
and he goes in and says, "That's my bike. I want to buy this bike." And Stephen King does a great job, and they do
does.
sort of poke fun at Stephen King because he knows he can't write, and so it's like this whole back back and forth about, not being able to write an ending.
Let's back up a little bit.
This is the most podcast world meta joke I've ever seen.
Yes.
With Stephen King.
Because we've been talking about it forever.
Yes.
And then Stephen King heard the show and was like, you know what, I'm a bad writer.
I do write bad endings.
Yeah. But anyway, so Stephen King is there talking about how, Bill, who is Stephen King's allegory in this movie.
Yes.
Bill is a bad writer because he can't finish anything very well.
The best part is like, Bill's like, do you want me to sign your book? He's like, no, I hated the ending.
I hated the ending. So he buys the bike. Stephen King gets the bike down and
like
sets it up.
$300.
And he gets him. He was like, you can afford it. I'm going to charge you a shitload of money, $300. And he's just like, oh, okay. He has that in cash on him because he's a fucking Hollywood writer. Anyway, so he hands him the $300 and then starts to ride his bike down the street, and it's like all rickety and shit. And then he says a reference that he would not get because he wasn't alive in the 40s and 50s.
Yeah, that's the
that
only part.
really fucking bothered
Hi-Ho
me.
Silver Away.
This is the only part from moving the book from like the 50s to the 80s that really doesn't work.
Well, that's not the only part that doesn't work, but we're about to get to that scene because he wheels up on the sewer grate that Georgie was taken in, and he starts yelling at it.
Yeah.
So correct me if I'm wrong, in the movie, he doesn't know that his brother died there.
I don't know. It's taunted him so much with that. He may have.
Yeah.
We didn't see that, though.
Maybe he's read
so
the book.
we just see, maybe he read the book. So we just see him
he
yelling at a
finished the
sewer
book.
grate for no reason.
In the book, I actually like this because, the kid that comes up with the skateboard.
Yeah.
And it flashes back to it talking to him, like why he chose him. He's like, you weren't there, Bill. But in the book, the kid is like, I only hear voices in the bathtub.
Yeah.
And he tells the kid, he's like, you stay away from drain.
It's like, get the fuck out of
He
there.
doesn't
goes
freak
and,
out on the kid as much in the book.
No, he grabs the kid's lapel and starts shaking him, and it's like, oh yeah, he doesn't freak out in the book.
In the book, he's like, stay away from all the drains, don't go in the barrens, don't talk to strangers, and always stay with your group of friends.
In the book,
Yeah.
it's Jaws in the river that he's seen.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, he doesn't like yell in his face to leave town.
No, he goes creepy stranger danger style on this
But
kid.
this
really
really
does.
bothered me in the movie because in the movies, Bill doesn't know where his brother was taken from.
And
so
I can't
thought
remember if
this
he
was
did
real
know.
stupid.
Well,
Because I haven't read the books. I don't know. Like he
it's
wouldn't.
like a retcon that doesn't work.
Yeah, it
Something
does
that's
not. It's like
retcon.
a huge plot hole for me specifically because I haven't read the book, and I would never read the book. I wouldn't ever watch the movie either unless you guys made me. But like I was just like, why is he yelling at this grate? He has no idea what happened here.
That's interesting because it didn't bother me at all, and I think it's because I've just
Read the book.
No, exactly.
So you knew.
So now we get Ben's flashback, and he is in class. And he sees a turtle, and this is the only turtle we see in the whole movie, which I'm okay with. But
You
that's
seem okay with it.
because that's a big part of the book that could have gotten.
There's
really
a turtle in
bogged
the
down.
first movie too.
There are, yeah, and there's a turtle at the end of the book that you just haven't gotten to
Yeah, the
yet.
whole world's on a
It's the
turtle.
space turtle that
Yeah,
ties everything together and makes everything make sense.
He's one of the guardians of the beam of the Dark Tower.
What the
That's
fuck
how
was
it
just
relates.
said?
That's what you kept wanting me to explain in the Dark Tower, which is why I didn't. Because
what
it's
is
a
it?
whole,
Did you didn't just make that up?
No.
Oh my god.
No, that's part of the Dark
I
Tower.
legit thought you made that up.
No.
Oh my god.
Okay,
Okay.
but what is it?
It is like a side creature. He's just like kind of an evil, like a Balrog.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a good analogy. Like he is a bigger force, like kind of a demon, but he's not like essential to the structure of the universe like the turtle is.
Right.
So while Bill's at the grate yelling about Georgie, he's like reaching his hand down because George is like, "Hey, he's coming, help me! He's coming,
Yeah.
he's coming,
Like,
he's coming." Help me.
Clearly, Bill has seen the first movie because he knows where that grate is, so he knows not to stick his arm in there.
So dumb. But yeah, he sticks his arm all the way in there trying to grab Georgie because I guess he forgot that it's been 27 years since his brother's been dead forever. So he reaches down trying to grab him, and then all these little hands grab him and try and pull him in.
Yeah, and I did kind of like how they did that. I liked it better than in the first movie.
Yeah, it just didn't make sense because there's no reason why he would be there. But then he pulls it out, and he's got the boat that he gave Georgie that led to Georgie being destroyed.
He's got his Horcrux.
Yeah.
So, okay, now this is the first time that we saw something that bugged me in this movie. So, a big criticism of the first TV miniseries is that Pennywise just yells at them a bunch and doesn't actually try to kill them. And I did see that a little bit in here. Like Pennywise could have killed Bill when he was on top of.
Yeah, in the book, Pennywise tries to kill them all when they separate.
Right. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I feel like he's just trying to scare them but not actually try to attack them until they get to the Neibolt Street
I
house.
don't know, man. He's been here for millions of years, completing the same cycle every 27 years.
Yeah, he's just trying to mix it up.
Honestly, I would probably want to die at this point.
Yeah.
He's just like,
It's hard to deal with that time of the cycle.
yeah, right, Jen? So he's just over it. He just wants to die. He's like, man, I just got to scare these guys until they call me clown to my face, and then I'll just let them kill me.
So Ben is getting picked on in his social studies or whatever class.
This is a flashback.
This is a flashback.
Because it's little fat Ben.
So we see Pennywise's silhouette in the projector, but just
man, that scared
kidding,
me
it's
too.
actually Bev.
Or is it?
Because Bev sits down
It's not Bev. I was there.
and she starts smoking in a classroom, which you cannot do.
That's how I knew it was it.
She smokes a lot in
Bev
this
smokes
movie.
the entire book.
So
And
when she saw her
smokes-
death, it was lung cancer. Anyway, so she's lighting up next to Ben.
Yeah, she's disabled the smoke detector too.
Oh my god!
And then she starts being like, she's like leading him on and like letting him think that she's gonna like be into him kissing her. And then she pulls back and she's like, haha, you think I would ever want to kiss somebody as fat and gross as you? Which is,
Been there.
Oh, Mikey.
now I knew that she was Pennywise because that's the point of this section of the movie, but this is not in the book. But it's like his fear that she'll never love him and he'll die alone.
Been there.
Oh,
Well, Mikey, you're playing it out.
don't worry, Mikey. I've seen your death.
Oh.
It's soon. Mikey is single, ladies. All right. Anyway,
How do I die? Is it like what I thought?
it's covered
It's
in
exactly
Cheeto
what
dust
you
and
thought.
sadness. No. So anyway, so Ben starts just running out of the classroom because Bev like catches her hair on fire and then starts to turn into scary Ghost Rider.
Yeah.
So he's like Ghost Rider. Bev is chasing him down the hallway and Ben's running towards the
and
exit
then-
and it's like chained up.
And then I don't know if you caught this, like during the chase, he's taunting him about his poem. Ember
yes.
fires, my
Yes.
January hair, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's why her head caught on fire.
Yes.
Got it.
So he runs to the door, it's chained shut, and then he sees his locker. Do you see there were like boobs drawn on it? Like I think they were taunting him because
They
he's a
called
bigger
him tits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that's drawn on his locker and he opens his locker and climbs in there
And
like
it's gigantic.
like an idiot. Well, it would have to be. He's a big kid. So he climbs in the locker.
He pulls out her signature of the yearbook. and he-
That's right.
That's not Bev. Bev would never do that to me.
Aw.
And then
he's right.
Pennywise is in the locker with him. I honestly don't know. I had my hat pulled down almost all the way at
This
this
scene
point.
was scary.
Scary
It was
as
scary,
shit.
but why didn't Pennywise just kill him right there?
Because Pennywise wants to die.
Maybe Pennywise is tired.
That's the whole metaphor of the book. Is like Pennywise is tired of doing this.
Yeah,
over
he's
and
just
over
giving
again.
up.
He's sick
Yeah.
of doing this
Come
every
home,
27
come
years.
Home, come home.
His heart's just not in it anymore.
No, he's over it. He's been doing it for millions of years. He knows Stephen King can't write an ending and is sick of waiting for it. So he's just like, you know what? I'm going to let these kids kill me.
I see what you did.
Jen does not seem like she's on board.
Not
with it.
falling for it.
But listen, that's the way I saw this
Hot
movie.
take,
Yeah.
and I like it.
So now Bev and Ben get back to the hotel.
Well, can we finish the Ben scene?
Yeah,
so, like,
didn't-
what? How does he get out of this? How does he get out of the
He
locker?
runs into a janitor.
He runs out of the locker. Pennywise chases him, and he runs
That's
into
right.
the
So
janitor.
yeah, so he runs into the janitor, and then it cuts to Bev and Ben at the hotel.
All right, so now Bev and Ben are at the hotel having their little talk.
Is this when they have that moment where Bev is talking about the poem that he wrote for her, but she doesn't realize it was him?
Yeah.
He, of course, knows because he wrote it. And she's talking about what it meant to him, and it made her see Bill in this way that, you know, she has obviously had a romantic thing with Bill in her mind, but it wasn't Bill.
Yeah, it was Ben.
It was Ben, yeah.
And then it just made her feel special too. And
Yeah.
I think, like, as terrible as her life was, I feel like that was like a good thing she could hold on to.
That's
you know?
right. And Ben is about to say, hey, listen, that was me.
Right.
And I realize I was fat then, but look at me now.
I'm pretty dreamy. I'm like
Yeah.
Jerry O'Connell.
Getting paper. Exactly. But he goes upstairs because Richie's like, fuck this, I'm out, right?
Right, yeah.
And
Fuck
then
this shit,
Bill
I'm
walks
out.
in.
Yeah.
And Bill's like, yo, what'd that poem do?
He claims the poem.
He doesn't. No. Bill, honestly, I don't think Bill ever knows that poem was written because Bev
don't
never
think so
confronts him about the poem, does he? Or does she?
In the first movie, she looks at him and she says, January Embers. And he's like,
I just think
I've
he's
never
like,
heard of
what?
that.
But I don't think he really knows.
I don't think he
that
takes
that
credit
exists.
for it, though.
No,
he
he doesn't.
doesn't.
The next thing that happens is we get Eddie's flashback. Eddie's.
Oh, this is the pharmacy.
Yeah.
Oh.
This part, this is probably my least favorite part of the movie because I just didn't understand stand it.
Man, all of these things dragged for me. They were so slow.
Oh man, you should read the book.
No, I'm never going to do that.
So he goes to the pharmacy and he sees old as fuck Mr. Keene, who's the creepy pharmacist from the first movie, coming up and like feeling up his face.
Yeah, listen, if your pharmacist reaches over the counter and molests your
Tries
cheek.
to like pop your zit or something.
Well, he's trying to diagnose a mole / could it be cancer? Melanoma, carcinoma, something like that. Let's figure it out.
Okay, I didn't really get this part of the book, this movie either.
Yeah, so because then Eddie goes down into the basement and hears his mom asking for help. And then he creeps up to this crazy curtain and there's like blood and like needles all over the place.
Like, I mean, he is so afraid of infectious diseases.
Yes, and I got
so
that.
I sort of got that, yeah.
But then his mom is behind the curtain, like strapped to this table, and the leper from the first movie is in the corner, like chained to some pole, and I just don't get it. The thing that I do think it was saying was...
He's chained to a pipe.
Not a pole, a pipe, and he keeps coming closer and closer and closer and finally gets him. And so it's his fear of infection, and I think it's also his fear that he's going to have to leave his mom, and his mom is not going to let him leave, and he's going to feel guilty about it because he does leave his mom there to die.
He's like, sorry, Mom, but I got to live.
I got to, yeah.
I'm out.
Eddie, as a kid, is confronting the leper attacking his mom and lets the leper kill his mom.
That is true. It is Eddie as a child.
Cuts to, as an adult, he's down in the basement. The leper attacks him. He chokes the leper to death. He's like, yes, I fucking did it.
Yeah.
Not to death.
Yeah, because then it pukes black stuff all over him.
Yeah, he chokes him to plague. Yeah.
We hear "Just Call Me Angel in the Morning."
Yeah, it's a weird scene.
I didn't get that.
I felt like,
but I love James Ransone, who was the guy who played Eddie. I think
I feel like, and I'll say this: the casting I think was amazing for everybody. I think he did the best job of being the character that was in the first movie.
Yeah, and this is when
he's so like him in the first movie.
And he looks just like him too. Like when they like faded the faces in, they look just like each other. Yeah. All right, so now we're back at the hotel, and Bev and Bill are having their moment, and they're remembering.
I mean, it really cuts away from that scene to show us Eddie's walk, and then it cuts back to them in the hotel, right?
Yeah, and he's like, I don't want to talk about it. And he's just going to go upstairs and take a shower.
Yeah.
And it's funny. So then Bev and Bill.
But this is where they have their kiss.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then they kind of pull back, and I'm just not, I don't know. Yeah, it's sweet.
I like the way they position this because she ends up with Ben, right? But they kiss in this movie, but it doesn't seem like romantic as much as it seems like them remembering what happened as kids.
So in the book, they have sex, and she remembers while they're having sex.
In all fairness, that is also something they did as kids, so it could have been them remembering that as kids.
That's exactly the moment she remembers that, actually.
Yeah.
Good catch on that.
It doesn't really seem that romantic. It's just kind of the nostalgia thing.
Yeah, Bill kisses her, she kisses him back, and then that's it.
And that's it, yeah.
It's it, yeah.
And they don't address the fact that both of them are still married while they're kissing.
Well, I got the impression that she is, at very least, separated.
Yes.
I mean, she left her ring on the stairs when...
and in the book, it goes into great detail.
There's a lot more detail about it in the book.
Yeah, I got the picture that she was single and ready to bend.
Ready to bend. So now they see the skateboard falling down the stairs, and it's the kid's skateboard that he saw in the street and accosted.
Bill stole.
And then they see blood sort of trickling up, like defying gravity up, right? So they turn it over. I couldn't read what it said. It was too quick.
It said, "You won't be there for him either," or something like that. Like implying you're going to let this kid down just like you let Georgie. Because this kid looks just like Georgie.
Looks a lot like Georgie, yeah. But this is when Bill's like, you know what? Fuck this. He's not going to get another kid. I'm going to go save him.
Right.
And he leaves.
He does leave. So we see Richie also leaving and getting into a car that may or may not have just contained Henry Bowers. And that's how he got here.
What?
Because now we see Eddie upstairs.
Richie gets into his own car.
Yeah, Richie
gets into his own car. The car right next to him is the one that Patrick Hockstetter
Yeah, the other one's the Trans Am that he gets.
Exactly.
Yeah, zombie valet.
So Henry is there.
Well, he's not there anymore because he's right behind Eddie in his bathroom.
Yeah, Eddie's cleaning off the black vomit.
Yeah, and trying to talk himself down in the mirror hilariously. And then Henry's right behind him and stabs him through the cheek.
Yeah, stabs him right in the face.
AF.
It was. And I thought
I thought it was real stupid.
Really?
Yeah, this took me out of the movie completely.
No.
There were a couple of clunky.
I honestly thought it was a dream.
I didn't think it was a dream.
Because you've read the book probably, but because he does not react like someone who just got stabbed in the fucking face.
Yeah, there were a couple of moments where I'm like, are they Terminators now?
Well,
they can just pull the things out. Yeah. But, okay, and the thing about him getting stabbed in the cheek didn't bother me as much as Henry Bowers getting stabbed in the chest and then just pulling the knife out.
Yes.
I'll say this about the Henry Bowers stuff. Henry Bowers is an undead chauffeur. So, like, I understand that there may be some, like, mystical stuff that's happening around Henry Bowers, because it looks like after Eddie pulls the knife out of his face and gets in the shower behind the shower curtain, and Henry goes up to it trying to get his knife. He's like, where's my knife? And then he stabs him through the shower curtain. And then Henry, of course, leaves, right? And then he pulls the knife out of his chest. In my mind, you could have stabbed him in the heart, and then he pulls it out of his heart and he's still alive just because there's some magic happening
That's
with
true.
Henry. So, like, that stuff didn't bother me as much as
It
Eddie
was hard
being...
to tell. It was just harder for you to tell if it was a hallucination or not.
Yeah, because Eddie was, like, being snarky. Like,
Yeah.
The only moments where Eddie really shines is in like extreme crisis like that. You know, at the end where Richie's telling him like, you're a badass. This is what you did, this, and this.
You're
and like,
braver than you think you are.
Yeah, this is one of the moments where he was actually brave but didn't realize it.
yeah, no, I agree with that. Yeah.
All right, so the next thing we see is Bill at the fair. And I really liked this part because that fun house creeped me the fuck out. So he's going through this fun house with all these neon clowns, going into the house of mirrors, and he keeps running into glass, which I thought was pretty funny. And the mirrors are getting smaller and smaller, and he's seeing Pennywise kind of walking behind him, or we're seeing that.
Bill only sees the kid.
Yeah. And we see the kid who is not Georgie, but might as well be.
He's Georgie adjacent for sure.
He is Georgie adjacent. And so then Bill runs. So the kid is in glass. There's glass in between Bill and the kid, and they can see each other. And the kid's like, what the fuck? Why are these grown-ups yelling and following me? And then he
literally says, why are you following me to Bill? Yeah.
Yeah. And then turns around and sees Pennywise. And this is when he's got it from the previews. He's got his tongue hanging out real low. And then this part creeped me out because he's just banging his head on the glass over and over and over
Holy
again.
shit. Yeah, that was
scary.
super creepy. And Bill is like trying to punch through the glass. He's doing his best.
And not making a dent.
No.
And Pennywise just cracks it a little bit more every time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Until finally,
Oh, this was so brutal, man.
yeah, man, just smashes his head through and chomps the kid.
And then it like literally sprays blood all over the window or the glass that's between Bill and the kid.
Right.
Oh, it's gross.
And then he's gone. So you could make the
Then
argument.
who's gone?
The kid. Like then
Yeah, the
it,
kid's
like,
been eaten.
Right. But so it could have gone into magical it land, or maybe it was an illusion the whole time.
I thought it may have been.
And I think it's
You think
a
the
little
kid was
ambiguous.
it the whole time?
Or it
No,
was
I
like
think the kid was part of. I think the kid actually got eaten.
Me too. I think the kid
All right,
existed.
let's go with that.
All right, so what happens after the kid gets eaten
All
by
right,
it?
so now Richie's driving away, and he's trying to kind of talk through whether or not he's going to stay. And then he passes the synagogue that Stan had his bar
oh,
mitzvah
yeah,
at.
man.
And we see Stan talking about this is the day he's becoming a man. And then he like walks off and he's like, fuck it, I'm going to be who I want to be. I'm a loser and I'm always going to be a loser. And I liked that. It's not in the book at all. And I don't think
Is it not?
No.
Wow.
And it doesn't quite fit Stan's character in the book either. But I mean, I'll allow it.
I'm starting to realize that all the things that I liked about the movie were not in the book.
Exactly.
So they're talking about memories, and he's talking about how the things from your childhood that you take with you are the things that you wish you could forget lots of times. And you forget the happy memories, and you forget who you were friends with, but what you remember is all the times people made you feel like shit.
Yeah.
And that's what the big metaphor that I took from this is just all the times in my life that people made me feel like I was worthless and that I believed them and started thinking that I was, and I'm not remembering all the good things that happened, you know? I've been talking about this stuff in therapy a little bit recently.
Clearly.
So it hit me. This was a good time for me to watch this movie. But yeah, so like what they're saying is the reason that we forget is because we're focused on the wrong things, and
Yeah,
we're
we
not
focus on the
trying.
negative.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're not trying to remember the positive stuff. So now we see Mike back in the library, and this is when a book falls off.
This is where I went to the bathroom, so you guys have to tell me what happened.
Yeah, I'm going to say I didn't go to the bathroom once during this movie. I'm very proud of myself.
I had a
Yeah.
large drink.
You did.
Yeah.
So Mike goes and picks up the book, and it's like an old news clipping of when his family died, right?
Yep.
And it said 2 crackheads die in fire.
Did it say
Yeah.
that? I think it said two locals.
Nope. That's
2
what it says
crackheads?
when he looks at the book at the end of the movie after Pennywise is dead. In that scene, it says crackheads.
Okay.
Which I was like, oh, shit, that's super racist.
Oh man.
But
Fun
yeah.
fact.
Uh-oh.
Originally, they gave Mike a big drug problem in this adaptation.
Really?
Yeah, and they cut it out, which I am really glad that they did because that is not Mike's character at all.
Oh, that's weird because in the book it's like he made the decision to stay and guard Derry.
Exactly. Yeah, he was the lighthouse keeper.
Yeah.
And his parents are still alive and they had a great relationship and they didn't die in a fire. And none of this is right because they fucked Mike's story in both movies. It pissed me off. Anyways, so this book falls off the shelf and then, oh my God, it's Henry Bowers. You think it's going to be Pennywise, but it's not. It's Henry Bowers coming to attack him. And they're wrestling and fighting and he's about to stab Mike in the head and then chunk.
Oh man, I love this scene.
Richie hatcheted him in the back of the head. And
Wait, is that what happened?
Yeah, Richie saved the day.
I missed that whole fight. You missed the Henry death scene.
Yes.
Holy shit, it was good, man.
It was good. It was real suspenseful. And it was that thing where you don't see the wound, but you know something happened. And then you see who it was, and it was Bill Hader.
Yeah.
And I love him. And Mike, I do think, got stabbed in his arm. They're like, are you okay? And Richard's like, no, I just killed a guy.
I think it was like he sliced him.
Yeah.
Because he held up his arm to defend against the attack, and it sliced his arm. Not super bad, but he does have a bandage on for the rest of the movie, I think.
Kick it over.
There are no cops in this town, so it doesn't matter.
Right, exactly. Well, the cop was Henry's dad, and Henry's dad got killed by Henry.
Since Henry killed the only cop in town, they haven't replaced him a cop in 27 years.
Right, and it's Derry, so of course.
Yeah, nobody cares.
Gotcha.
Right, exactly. So now Bill is at the carnival, and they're on the phone with him, and he said, I'm going to go kill it. And
yeah, because they were like, let's all get together and talk about how we're going to go after it, right? And then they call Bill, and they're like, Bill, come to the library. And he's like, fuck it, I'm going to kill it right now. And they're like, ah, shit.
Have you not learned anything from all our walking tours is that we are powerful when we're together and that when we're separated, that's when we get fucked up. But Bill's saying, I don't want you guys to die too. I'm not taking you down with me.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go by myself. And they're like, well, fuck that. We know exactly where you're going, so we're just going to show up there too.
Yeah, and they do. So Bill goes to the house, and then they all roll up right behind him.
They do, yeah. And this is the speech on the front porch was one thing that just kind of didn't quite work.
I don't think it worked either.
Yeah, because one of my favorite parts of the first movie is when Richie says we're going to go kill this fucking clown. They try to allude to that, and it just doesn't work here.
Or Bill's on the porch and says, I think Richie said it best, and he goes, something about his dick.
Yeah.
Or he has two takes that are supposed to be funny.
Yeah, and it just doesn't work.
I don't know. I sort of found it a little funny.
It was pretty funny.
It's not that I didn't think it was funny. It's that I didn't think it quite worked.
It was not inspiring as the first speech.
And it's like if you've ever told a joke and you think somebody's going to jump in and finish your joke for you and they have no idea what you're talking about.
I've never done that.
I've done that all the time.
I think there's podcast evidence of that.
I mean, and if I didn't edit, there'd be a lot more.
right. So now, Bill, they're having their speech and they're walking in and somebody says, beep, beep, Richie, and I love it.
So yeah, Bev says that.
Beep, beep, Richie, I love it. Yeah.
That's the only time she says it in the movie.
Yeah, I think somebody else says it at one point too, but you don't hear it nearly as much.
No.
So now they're back in the house at Neibolt Street.
Yes.
And so this is something that I really liked how they did because there's a scene in the miniseries when they open the fridge and Stan's head is in the fridge. And I think what they did here is they had the fridge, and in the first movie, Pennywise climbs out of it. And in this movie, it's the same body all crumpled up, but it's Stan and not Pennywise.
Yeah, Stan's head rolls out of the fridge.
Yeah, his head rolls out. And I love that nod to the miniseries in a way that I felt was updated and worked. I really liked that part.
This whole scene worked for me in a very scary way.
At this point out, this movie's pretty intense.
I think so too, yeah.
But they're separated, right? So Bev, Ben, and Mike are in a room, and Pennywise is carving on Ben's stomach. What does it say? It's
Home at last.
Yeah, home at last, right? Yeah. Carving it on his stomach. And so they're having to deal with that while Richie, Bill, and Eddie are fighting Spiderhead Stan.
It's like the thing.
Yes,
oh my
absolutely.
God, it's
very
terrifying.
The thing. And all these spider legs start crouching out and then going all over the place. And it is really freaky. And I really liked this part.
It was very scary. It was hard for me to watch. It was...
and Stan taunts them verbally as well.
It's very scary.
Yeah. Well, he said, if you were here, or I'd still be alive if not for you. So he's just playing into Bill's guilt.
But that's before it turns into Spiderhead. But,
right.
And once it's Spiderhead, it's just trying to eat everybody, right?
Yeah, once it's Spiderhead, Bill recognizes that statement for the manipulation that it was, and he's over it. Now it's just a spider.
Right. He's like, well, fuck you. I'm going to kill you.
Right.
So anyway, so the spider's chasing them around, and then it hides, and then he walks over to Eddie because Eddie's frozen in the corner. Richie does. and he's like, hey man, are you okay? And then he sees the saliva drip down between them, and then they look up and then he goes, oh, that's where you got off to. And then it jumps on Richie and it starts trying to like bite his face, and it's got its arms all around Richie's face and it's trying to like pull him closer and closer, and Bill is trying to pull it off and Eddie is frozen.
Yeah.
And Bill's like, give me the knife, you jackass, because he's got both of his hands on the spider and can't let any of them go or it'll eat Richie's face. And at this point, they figured out how to, when I say they, I really mean Bev figured out how to defeat Pennywise in the other room, because she looks in the mirror and she can see. It's like reverse vampire.
Yeah.
Because you can't see him in the reality we're in, but if you look in the mirror, you can see him. So she goes up with the thing she got off the fence outside that they actually used in the first movie to stab him, and she breaks the mirror.
Yes.
And then the writing on Ben's stomach goes away, which is fantastic because you don't want to ruin those beautiful abs, right? And then it cuts to them trying to get into the room with the spider and Bill and Eddie and Richie. And
Ben stabs the fuck out of that spider.
Yeah, Ben pops over and stabs the fuck out of the spider in the head.
Spider.
Yeah. And then it stops trying to eat Richie's face, and then they let go of it, and it's sort of like spiders off into the other room. And then they go into the basement and see the well.
Yep.
And then they climb into that shit.
Oh, but first Bill's like, Eddie's like, please don't be mad at me, Bill. I was just really afraid.
Oh yeah, because Bill is like yelling at him, and then once
That's
Eddie
not a
says
character
that,
for Bill.
I don't think so, man. I feel like he's all okay. I think he's all amped up on like adrenaline. He comes over and yells at him, and then Eddie's like, "I'm so sorry. I was just so scared." And he goes, "You know what? That's what he wants.
That's what he wants."
And he wants to separate us, and we're not going to let that happen.
So now they're back. They go down the well. They're back in the sewers. They're back in that big like silo room from the first movie where Bev was in the deadlights.
Yeah, and where the
except it's flooded.
Where the wagon was, right?
Yeah.
But it is flooded, and they go like wade over to the wagon, but Bev hears a voice behind her.
Yeah, and I thought it was going to be her husband, or like it pretending to
really.
be her
husband. I got you. Yeah. But Ben hears that, and what is that? Is there
it's
a
Miss
scare
Kirsch.
there?
Remember, it's old naked big Miss Kirsch.
Oh my God,
around.
that's right. That scared the shit out of me.
And it pulls her under, and
Bill
everybody
immediately jumps in.
Yeah, Bill does, and Ben does too, and actually everybody does, but Eddie, and he's still up on that wagon area, just kind of like afraid.
Yeah, singing Wagon Wheel, hoping they come back.
Yeah,
and they do.
And then they pull her up, and everything's fine. And they're like, where do we go next? And then this was a weird cut to me. They're standing on top of this trap door, and they're looking down. They're like, okay.
No, that trap door is into the wagon.
Right.
They climb into the wagon.
And they go in, and this is when Richie and Eddie have their sweet moment. And it was funny, too. So Richie's like, who killed a clown before he was a preteen? Who got stabbed in the face?
Yeah, because Eddie's like, I can't go down there. I'm too scared. I won't be any good to you down there. I froze.
And he's talking about all these brave things Eddie's doing. And he's like, who married a woman 10 times his body weight?
But Eddie's like, I did.
Yeah. And so he's like, and you're braver than you think.
Big girls need loving too.
They do. Oh, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying I don't think Eddie ever really loved her. And
so yeah, they laugh their way into going into the scary
into the
place.
murder room.
Yeah.
So they go down. So they open the hatch, and it's like it's not tunnels. It's like rock caves.
Yeah. It's like The Descent a little bit.
It is very Descent.
And so they get into this giant room now that's been underdairy this whole time, and it's like it's got lots of spikies. It almost looks like
the comet, the meteor from Armageddon.
It was like an asteroid.
Yeah.
It was like an asteroid impact site. Is what it looked like to me. Yeah.
Yes, which is what it is.
Yeah,
if
because
you're following
he's
mythology of this. Mike has brought his little artifact thing.
The little leather Louis Vuitton bag.
The Horcrux burning Louis Vuitton artifact. Yeah.
So they burn all their totems. Right.
They do.
Yeah, they get a circle in the middle of the thing, the asteroid. He's like, we've got to make it take a form, so we're going to burn all our stuff and hold hands.
Right. And they go around and tell what each of the things are. And Ben was like, I didn't have to find it. It was in my wallet all this time because I love you, Bev. But he doesn't say that yet, but he says it with his eyes and his heart. All right. So they all burn.
It's like, all of these crunches were for you, Bev.
And they burn Stan's cap. And this was funny because they kind of got in a little argument about shit that would or would not burn.
Yeah, because
I thought it was funny.
Because Eddie put in his inhaler. Mike puts in a rock, which I like. That was my favorite totem, was the rock. But,
I did too, because that's one of my favorite parts of the book, the rock fight scene, and that was a very powerful. And that is the moment where they all come together.
Yeah,
as
that's
a group.
the beginning of the Losers Club.
Yeah.
But it's not about actually burning it. It's about putting them in there and then calling down the deadlights, right? And
right.
So they call down the deadlights. The deadlights go into the Louis Vuitton Neverfull bag, and they put the top on it, or do they? because
So
a
it's
balloon
just the
stops them.
deadlights?
Yeah, it's just the deadlights.
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
The deadlights are in it.
The deadlights are not in it.
It's complicated.
It's like your Facebook relationship status, Mikey. But anyway, they try to close the Louis Vuitton Everfull bag, and then the balloon pops out of it, and they can't close it. And then it builds up and builds up and builds up and builds up, and then pops, and then Pennywise is back.
But he's a giant Pennywise.
He is a giant Pennywise. Yeah.
Well, no, before he gets giant Pennywise, he's like, Mike didn't tell you something.
Right, which bugged me because what the fuck did they not tell? Oh, that all of the native tribe died trying to kill it, which of course they did because they didn't kill it.
Yeah, but the whole thing Mike was saying the whole movie was we have to get him into his true form before we can even hurt him.
Exactly.
So they've got him in his true form now.
They have. So now it almost looks like Mike is about to like sacrifice himself and just kind of divert him. Yeah.
Bill's like, no, not today.
Yeah.
And then they all run off and separate.
Oh, yeah.
And
Bill goes into the water and he comes back up in the basement of his old house, which is a scene we saw in the first movie.
So he goes off by himself, and then we get Eddie and Richie off by themselves, and Bev and Ben.
Oh man, this all really works metaphorically.
I think so too. And it also, let's say this cuts back and forth a lot. So let's talk about each one of these things separately.
Let's do Bill first.
Okay.
We mentioned him first.
Yeah, so let's do Bill. And this is one of my favorite parts in the book. And it's nothing like what actually happens in the book, but I love the...
Really?
Yeah, the feeling of it is the same, but it's basically Georgie, him confronting the fear that it's his fault that Georgie died.
Yeah.
Which is what he is most afraid of.
And
in the
he
book.
literally has to kill Georgie's accusation that it's his fault.
Right,
he
exactly.
literally drowns Georgie.
And then shoots the version of himself with that little cattle killer gun that is saying it's your fault.
Such a good metaphor for the demon he brings from his childhood, which is if I didn't pretend to be sick that one day, that my brother would still be alive.
Right. And he said stuff that I've said to myself in therapy. Like, yeah, you did that thing, but that doesn't mean you deserved all of this. And it doesn't mean you intended for that thing to happen, and forgive yourself.
I think I related to that one the most because I struggled with that a lot growing up because I wanted to go to Wendy's after school and before band practice. And it was on the way back from Wendy's that we got in an accident. My brother died.
Okay.
I struggled with that a lot growing up. So I connected with that story a lot.
Like if you hadn't have wanted to go to Wendy's.
I also struggled with that too because one of the things that happened to me in my childhood was I figured out that my dad was having a bunch of affairs with my mom at the same time. And I made the decision not to tell anyone about it. And I felt like I made the decision to try to protect my brothers. But then it all blew up. So I always blame myself for not telling them back then.
That's similar.
Yeah, because both of you rationally know that neither of those things are your fault.
Right.
But that's not the part of you react. Part of yourself feels like it is.
Well, I definitely feel like Mikey's the reason his dad was cheating.
I never felt that guilt. I felt like I could have better protected them by telling the truth.
Oh, yeah.
But it's hindsight bias. It's expecting yourself to know things that there's no way you could have known.
Yeah, like there's no way I would have known that my brother was going to die.
Well, as I explained it at
Wendy's.
work, it's like logically you're not the fault of the accident. And logically I know I couldn't have better protected my family.
But when you're 15 and that shit happens, like
you still feel those feelings.
And you carry those feelings with you. Like I'm not in my first marriage anymore, but I still get those feelings and I have to remind myself I'm not there anymore. I'm in a different place, you know?
Let's do Bev and Ben next.
Okay, because I did really like this, partly just because I love Bev and Ben so much. So Bev and Ben run off and they're together for a minute and then they get separated and Bev is back in the bathroom.
Sort of the high school bathroom, right?
Yeah, from the first movie.
That's her introduction to the first movie is when they pour trash water on her.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. And Ben is back in the clubhouse that he has built. And I saw Ben's thing as like, I can't build all these structures to keep myself safe and I'm going to die alone.
Sure. Well, I mean, he literally gets buried by himself.
Yes.
And Pennywise even says that you're going to die
all
alone.
Those crunches for nothing. You're still going to die alone. Yeah.
Yep.
But Bev's is the one, of course, that I really related to because she's got all of these people trying to bust in and tell her these things and try to get her to...
Trying to tell her who she is.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what she's worth and try to manipulate her by telling her all of those things. And the blood is filling up the stall.
So as Ben is getting crushed by the dirt of literally the ground underneath him, Bev is about to get drowned in blood.
Ben, and like Bev's metaphor works better because Ben Pennywise actually just has to come up there and explain it. He like opens it,
Right.
he's like, basically, Ben, this all means that you're going to die alone and no one loves you. I just had to tell you in case you didn't get it. Bye. And then he closed the door.
What I thought at first was it's like the fear that he's not a good architect.
Yeah,
'cause
that's
the
what I-
structures will fall.
Yeah.
They're like, you don't clean this up. So Penny's just like, I don't want you to like, don't think this isn't poetic.
Right.
Right.
You're a great architect, but you're going to die alone.
Because you don't be loved. You can't even say
Right.
it.
Maybe his fear is that he is not able to support people enough.
Oh.
But he does, because this is
He literally reaches out and tells Bev he loves her.
well, because he starts saying his poem.
Yeah.
And she hears
Well,
it. And
he
I
actually
think,
says, I love you, Bev.
No,
He does,
that's how
yeah.
he starts it. He
Yeah.
goes, Bev, I love you.
And she's like, I'm a little busy right now with my own shit.
But his fear is not being able to say it, because how many times has he wanted to tell
No,
Bev?
many
and he
times in
won't.
this
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
more in the first one.
And
Yeah.
he doesn't. So when he finally does, and that's when she hears him, and she is listening to all these people trying to beat down the door and tell her how worthless she is. And then she finally hears somebody who truly loves her and truly cares about her. And that's what she hears. And that's what pulls her out. And that's when they can connect and pull themselves. And she pulls him up.
Yeah. She pulls him out of the dirt, literally out of the
Yeah.
dirt.
I think it works great.
I thought it was great
It's
too.
real sweet.
Didn't hate it. But then we've got Eddie and Richie.
So this works
Yeah.
well with Richie being gay.
Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved this part. This is one of the times where the humor really works.
Full disclosure. I had the hat completely over my face for the very first door, which was, I believe, very scary.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, which door should we open? Because it says not at all scary, scary, and very scary. And Richie's like, he's fucking with us, man. We got to do the very scary door. So he opens
Well,
it.
because in the first movie they picked not scary at all.
Yeah.
And it was scary.
Yes.
But when they go to very scary, I pulled my hat all the way down over my
they
face so I
open it
couldn't
and
see
it's a
it.
closet and they reach in and they turn the light on. And then
So in the first movie, it was a girl hanging and her legs were gone.
Yeah.
And in this movie, the legs are there and they come running up. And so then they close the door.
Terrifying.
I know.
Yeah.
I don't
And
know.
then-
I'm a leg guy.
I didn't realize that when you said that it was an only leg guy.
Oh.
I got some mannequin legs I can let you borrow.
Ew, why do you have mannequin legs?
We don't have to break down every joke. Jen.
Let's not unpack that.
I gotta go.
So then they open, I can't remember what's written on this door, but
Not
I
at all scary.
love this because he had talked about maybe the form taking the form of a Pomeranian.
Yeah, its final form is a Pomeranian, like
And
a small
I didn't
dog.
think it was that funny when he said it the first time, but then he opened the door and it's this tiny little Pomeranian.
This is funny because he's like, oh, fuck this.
Right,
Yeah.
right. He's like,
It's like, I know you're a monster.
You're a
Like, yelling at the dog.
I know your tricks, you little bitch.
And then him and Eddie are talking. They're like, well, sit. And then it sits.
Yeah, the dog sits.
They're like, well, that's
and then
cute.
That is
Richie's
real
like, oh, it's
sweet.
so cute.
Oh, good boy.
And then it
it's a
transforms
monster.
into a monster and scares the shit out of Todd.
I know.
And
It's
my favorite
hilarious.
part is like when they're like running away from the three doors. He's like, next time we should just pick scary, regular scary. And,
Yeah.
and Richie's like, next time.
Yeah.
So now Mike is staring down Pennywise because Mike doesn't get enough of a fear to have to overcome because this movie doesn't care about Mike.
Mike literally says like, I don't have to run because I'm not scared of you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jen just rolled her eyes aggressively.
I really did. Movie. There are a lot of things I loved about this movie, but again, the Mike thing bugged me.
Yeah.
All right. So now Richie is about to go do the dance and like distract Pennywise, and then he gets sucked into the
Man,
deadlights.
that escalated quickly because
It really
Richie is like
did.
giving Pennywise shit, and then out of nowhere he's floating into the deadlights. Yeah,
And then we see Eddie, and the spear is glowing. But so he throws the spear, and he
it hits him inside the mouth.
yeah.
and he starts to stumble and he falls back. He being Pennywise, sorry,
Yells
and
in pain. He's like, "Ooh."
well, yeah, and then he falls back on one of the spikes.
he
gets
stabs himself
impaled.
on
Yeah.
the Iron
Yeah,
Throne.
and then Eddie, and then Eddie's like, I think I killed him to Richie, who's like laying down trying to come out of the deadlight trance or whatever, and then boom, he gets stabbed through the stomach by Pennywise's spider claw thing.
Ah, yes. And like sucked back up. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's so sad.
it is real sad.
Pennywise dangles him in front of everyone and laughs, like trying to scare everyone, and then throws him.
Yeah,
Ugh.
and Pennywise is trying to get off of where he's impaled, and while that's happening, because Eddie gets thrown down like a little sort of cave or antechamber off the
Yeah.
cave,
Yeah,
right? And so they run over there and they're talking to him, and they're like, "You're gonna be fine, you're gonna be fine, you're fine," and they're trying to like pack the wound with stuff, and
But he's not going to be fine.
no,
Yeah.
he's definitely not gonna
And
make it.
Richie is very upset about this
Yes.
too. And this is what, not that it's not something to be upset about, but he is noticeably more distraught about this than the others.
But they also have this revelation that Pennywise has to abide by the rules of whatever it inhabits.
Yes.
And they got to make it small.
Yes.
So they're going to go through the entrance. They went through the cave because they had to like sort of like just squeeze through it. So it's like a very small opening. So if they can get Pennywise down to that size, they can kill him.
Yes. Yeah. But before they run over to do that, Eddie says, hold on, Richie. I just wanted to tell you that I fucked your mom. And it's like, I think it's kind of how he says, I love you.
Yeah.
And like he can't really say it, but it's like their last kind of moment with each other. And it sounds crass, but it works. I think it's sweet.
It actually does work. It does sound crass, though. You're right.
Right.
Anyway, so they're like, okay, we got to make it to the entrance to this. And Pennywise is trying to dig down to the cave they're in. So they kind of go out another way because Ben finds another way out. And then they start running to the cave and Pennywise sees them and then jumps in front of them.
Yeah.
And then they're like, you know what? There's another way to make someone small. And they're like, oh, shit. We just need to be a bully. So they become the bully and they sort of bully Pennywise into sadness.
Okay, here's why this worked for me. And this is specifically.
This is going to be.
Failed it for me.
I think I'm going to take more Jen's side, but
and that's totally fair.
We'll see. Yeah.
The reason this worked for me is because of I just watched this at the right time because just the other day in therapy, I was talking about how like I had always given my first husband so much power by being afraid and saying he's angry. And what I realized the other day was he wasn't angry, he was afraid, and that was turning into rage, and that there's a difference between anger and rage, and that rage is just impaired fear, and that fear was what was really driving this. And I think that's what they're saying is like they're taking their power back, and and when you take your power back, you lift yourself up and you lower them. So he's not this towering figure over you anymore. Like you become the person to be feared. And I think by confronting this and saying what it actually is, saying the truth of all of this stuff, like you're just a clown. And I see what you're saying. Like he's saying insulting things.
I don't disagree with you, but the way they do it is by verbally abusing and bullying Pennywise.
I agree.
I think
that I don't disagree with the metaphor. And if they had done what you just said, I'm on board for it. But they didn't. They verbally abused him and called him a clown and were just making fun of him. And which I don't care. I don't feel bad for Pennywise.
Right.
But it's just a shitty way to display the metaphor. Because I agree. The metaphor you just laid out, if they had done that, would have been awesome. But that's not what they do.
And I think what they're doing here is they're taking those insults and they're hurling them back. And that may
Well, no, they're actually pointed insults at Pennywise.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Pennywise never called them a clown. They're not taking the power back from Pennywise.
They're just directing it somewhere
verbally abusing Pennywise, which again, I don't give a shit. Pennywise is not to be you're not supposed to feel bad for Pennywise, but it's just it ruins the metaphor.
Yeah. I see your point. This is kind of how they confronted it in the first movie, but it did a better metaphor because it turned into each of their fears and they confronted it like that. I think if they came out of these separate things where they just confronted their demons and started saying that shit to the big it, like I didn't kill my brother, or
you're not going to make me sick.
Right. Or
I'm gay.
Right. This would have been the time.
Or maybe not even I'm gay or I'm okay with who I am. Yeah. He doesn't have to say it, but him just accepting that he knows that. Richie is the he in that situation.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Our Ben being like, you know,
I'm in love with Bev.
Right. Yeah. And Ben being like, I deserve love.
Yeah.
And like saying stuff like that. And then if that made it smaller, I think that would work a little bit better.
Yeah, because that would actually line up with the metaphor that Jen was explaining.
Well, and I think if I look at my personal feeling too, I think finally being able to express that anger that you've kind of buried for so long.
That's a good point.
That's not this quite the same as like verbally assaulting or bullying. It's finally like letting all of that out. And saying,
and if they had done that, I'd have been on board for it. But they didn't do that.
I understand your perspective. Yeah.
Because I like that metaphor.
Yeah.
But they didn't do that.
Well, and I was caught in a lot of feelings. So I didn't really hear a lot of what they were saying. I just heard them say clown a lot, which he was pretending to be a clown. So
I think it still works. You're kind of nitpicking a little bit.
I don't think it works because they literally turn into what he had been doing to them to beat him. They don't overcome it, they become it.
And that's a problem that I have with the new Halloween remake specifically. But I see what you're saying. It worked for me in this moment, but I can understand that reading of it too. Yeah.
But I think if you tweak that a little bit, it makes sense to me.
Because
and I'm
I
on
think
board
what
for
they're
it.
because I don't think that's what they're going for. I just think that's how it could be perceived. Yeah. You know? Yeah. And I see how you're reading
I didn't see it like that, but I could see how people could see it like that.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I'm right. That's just what they did in the movie.
Yeah.
And I haven't read the book.
I do think because of the word choices that they make, the scene becomes a little more lame than I would have liked.
Yeah, but if you change what they're saying to him slightly, the metaphor works for me.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Pennywise shrinks down to like baby level, right?
Yeah, and then they rip his
heart out, very like Indiana Jones in the Temple of Doom.
Beating.
Yeah, and then it's beating faster and faster and faster, and then every one of them, except for Eddie, because Eddie's expired, they crush his heart.
They do, yeah.
And then he dies.
And then they go back and they see that Eddie's dead too.
Yeah, and
that's really sad.
Richie's like just having a hard time with it,
and they're having to like drag him out.
Well, they're trying to drag him out, and then the whole thing starts to collapse. Like the cave they're in starts to collapse. So like, we gotta go. We cannot bring him with us. So they sort of drag Richie out of there, and then they barely make it to the house by the time it all collapses.
Yeah, and the house collapses in on itself.
Yes.
I don't want to spoil the book.
Spoil the book.
Slightly different. In the book, the whole town collapses and like it's a big disaster.
Everyone dies?
No. But it's
like a lot of people do probably.
But like the sewers collapse on themselves, so like the town sinks.
I mean, that would make sense.
Yeah.
So Pennywise is now dead.
Yes.
They walk back into town.
And they go up to the cliffs.
Oh shit, they don't walk back into town. You're right.
Right.
They go to the
cliffs from the first one of my favorite parts of the first movie where they dive off the cliff and they're just all bloody and covered with all kinds of shit.
Yeah.
And now there's a sign up that says you can't jump off these cliffs, which I think is funny. But they do anyways, and then they're swimming and they're kind of just sitting in the water.
I like the way they did the jump in scene because it's all the guys are on the sides and they let Bev jump first.
Just
I like that
in
a
the
lot.
first movie, because she's the one who wasn't afraid to jump off.
Yeah. But yeah, they are all sort of not really swimming so much, but sort of like standing or sitting in the water, cleaning themselves off. And they're talking about what Eddie would say.
How Eddie would have hated it.
Yeah. And then Richie just starts like sobbing.
Yeah.
And they sort of go over there and have like a really nice moment with him. And I really love, like, it's really, really sad, but like to break the tension, Richie's like, I really appreciate this, but I don't have my glasses, so I don't know who you are.
Yeah, it is really funny.
I don't know who you strangers are.
And this is when Bev and Ben are trying to find his glasses, and they go underwater, and she kisses him, and it's so sweet.
All right, so anyway, we see them walking into town. The remaining, I guess the now only the living members of the Losers Club, and then they see the reflection in the shop window, and it's all of the Losers Club on their bikes. Yeah.
And that's straight out of the book, and it's really a sad, like a bittersweet memory. Yeah. And then we see words in the sky, and it is words from the book, one of the last parts of the book, and it's so sweet. So he's finishing one of his books, and Bill is finishing a book, and they throw that thing in again, like, I know where I'm going this time.
This one's gonna have a good ending.
Right.
Wang.
And this is a difference in the book and the movie that I really like, because in the book they start to forget again.
Oh, yeah?
And it's so sad, except Mike forgets too. And they call, and it's like the writing in their phone book, or the writing in their like connections book, is fading over time. So they can't, even if they want to go look back, they can't. And so now we get the Stan letters, which is not in the book, but I like it.
The not suicide notes.
The not suicide notes.
I like it too.
And I too. Yeah, he's just talking about how like I knew I wouldn't be able to be there. I would have been a weak link, and so I'm just taking myself out of the equation.
Yep. This is when we see Mike packing up and leaving town.
Yeah, Mike's like, I'm getting out of this.
And I imagine he's going to Florida, because that's where he talked about wanting to go.
It doesn't really say, but that's what I thought too.
Because they can't give Mike a reason for wanting to go to Florida.
Yeah.
He just wants to go or something. But yeah, so Mike's leaving town. He's not staying trapped in Derry anymore. So we see Bev and Ben together and in love, happily ever after.
On their boat with their cute dog.
And then Richie pulls up to where they were carving Henry Bowers' name into Ben's stomach, and he has carved something into this wood, and we saw him carving it, but we didn't see what it was earlier.
We only saw the R part of it.
We saw him carving it as a child.
Yeah.
Child Richie had carved R+, and then we see now he's carving R+E, which is as close as we get to actually saying that he is gay in this movie. But it's so sweet.
It is very sweet.
It's very sweet.
Yeah. It was actually a math formula. It was R plus E equals MC squared.
Oh, yeah?
So it's,
is that what it is?
It wasn't him coming out. It was him coming out as a mathematician.
This whole time.
Mom.
He finally figured out Pythagoras.
I'm a nerd.
This is Stan's voiceover while all of this is going on. He's saying the one
They're
thing.
reading the not suicide notes.
Right.
Yeah.
Says the one thing about being a loser is you don't have anything to lose and you can just be who you want to be. And that's, I think, the lesson that they're all learning in this movie is just be who you are and don't be afraid.
Yeah.
And that's like, I just realized in therapy, I've been afraid of the wrong thing for so long. I was afraid of like people finding out I wasn't what they thought I should be. And now I'm realizing the bigger thing to be afraid of is trying to be something you're not.
Yeah, just not being who you want to be.
Exactly.
Yeah. But that's the movie.
And that's the movie.
Thank God.
9,000 hours later,
Yeah.
that's the movie.
Roll
And
credits.
It was plot heavy. There were some things that I think we all kind of thought were plotting and like a little slow.
Slog. It was a
But-
slog at the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah, but I loved it. I liked the part of the beginning because, again, I was seeing my favorite characters come to life, but I really enjoyed it. Talking through it, I think I liked it even more because I think, like the first one, I had some nitpicks with it, but the feeling I got while watching it was just really heartwarming, made me feel good. I really enjoyed it.
What about you, Mikey?
I agree with Jen. I really, really liked it. I enjoyed it as a film. I thought it was well directed. I thought all the changes they made from the book were really good.
I think so too.
I
Most of them.
like the metaphor. I like how it was deeper. I liked how it felt bigger and more important than like a normal horror movie. And I felt like they did something really good with this.
Okay. I hated it because it was super scary and I don't like scary things. And it was this kind of scary I don't like. It was very jump scary.
Yeah.
They weren't cheap jump scares, but I hated it. And aside from the metaphor breaking down right at the end, I liked it. I thought it was good. But I think everyone should watch it, especially if you've read the books. If you've read the books, I mean,
Yeah,
you may
what
as
are
well
you-
watch
of course
this.
you're gonna
Yeah,
watch it if
why
you've read
wouldn't
the
you?
book.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also, if you haven't read the books, read the books.
I would not
great.
recommend reading the
I would
books.
just
It
watch
seems
these
like they're
movies. Yeah,
horrible. Yeah, I
Now,
would just read.
You know what you should do is you should listen to the audio version by Steven Weber because it's great.
And aside from the metaphor breaking down, I thought it was a good movie.
I've got to watch this again because I missed that really important part.
The metaphor doesn't become, this is how we overcome it. The metaphor becomes hurt people. So
This
we're
is
gonna
how we
hurt this
turn
person.
into the thing that has
Yeah.
hurt us.
This is how we overcome it, and that is to become the herder.
And that's my problem with Halloween, the new Halloween.
Yeah, so let's talk box office. We're watching it on Thursday night
Yeah,
at
at
5.
5 o'clock.
So, and there were people there. We weren't the only ones there by
Yeah,
any means.
but it
Thursday's
wasn't
not going to
sold
be their
out.
biggest night. No, but Thursday's not going to be their biggest night. They're going to make money on this movie.
Oh,
the
yeah.
budget for this was $36 million. They'll probably make close to.
That seems low.
It does seem low. They'll
Yeah.
probably make close to or more than that in the first weekend.
Yeah, I think so.
I would be surprised if they don't make well more than that.
I think this
back
movie's got
over
legs.
its
I think
run.
it'll last in theaters through Halloween.
Yeah,
I
me
think so too.
So let's
Yeah.
do fun facts.
All right, fun facts.
Jen's fun facts.
Jen's
Now
fun
with-
fact.
Always fun.
Less depressing fun facts.
Well,
Doubt it.
well,
boy.
I
They're
got a
usually pretty depressing.
Oh, man.
Jen's reality facts. All right.
Sometimes they're dark.
So with the newer releases, there aren't as many fun facts.
Well, yeah,
they
because it
just haven't-
literally came out today.
So we know Bill Hader was on SNL. Apparently does an impression of Al Pacino very well.
Yes, he does a lot of impressions very
He
well,
does.
actually.
And in the book, Richie is a radio host who specializes in impressions.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so they had originally written the Al Pacino impression into the script
Nice.
when they cast Bill Hader. And he actually asked for it to be taken out because he said it was like old material and he wanted to do something
I could
new.
sort of see that, actually.
I do too. I kind of like that he did that.
Yeah, me too.
Also, he was amazing in this movie, so I don't feel like I lost anything.
Did you catch
know?
the Star Wars references, though?
No.
So in the Chinese food scene, he pretends to be Jabba the Hutt when he's talking
yeah,
about
I did
fucking
catch
Eddie's
that.
mom.
Yeah.
So that was a nod to his role in Star Wars. He's BB-8 in Star Wars. He does a lot of voices for
I
Star
didn't know
Wars.
that.
Yeah, he's BB-8.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, now I'm
Todd,
Star Wars
fun
fan.
fact.
Now with even more Todd.
Yeah.
Less depressing.
Yeah, true.
True.
It's about another movie.
All right, so they did not film all of the flashback scenes when they were filming the original movie, probably because they hadn't written the script for it yet.
That makes sense.
But they had to digitally age the kids down because they had
Bev
noticeably
looked a lot
grown.
older.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so if you look at the kids' faces, their faces just look a little softer. And I noticed this when Richie was playing arcade with the other kid because the other kid just looked like a kid. you know, and I could note. But it didn't bother me. It didn't take me out. The hate crime that happens at the beginning of this movie with Adrian Mellon was inspired by a real life hate crime. So in 1984 in Bangor, Maine, which is where Stephen King lives, Charlie Howard was murdered by 3 teens who were beating him for being gay and threw him over a bridge and he drowned. So directly inspired by that. So that was Charlie Howard, and that's just awful that happened and is still relevant today too.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, is there going to be a part 3? Is there going to be a part 3? No, there is not going to be a part 3.
Why would there be a part 3?
I know, because of money. But they've all said there's not going to be an It Chapter 3. They're not
Chapter 3, the money grab.
Exactly.
They're called It's.
With a dollar sign.
Yeah.
Apostrophe though. It's
and
ownership.
I appreciate that they are not trying to milk this money because
they're going to make plenty of money.
They
on
are.
this,
Yeah. And so Andy Muschietti is the director and producer of this, and he is going to produce Roadwork, which is another Stephen King, actually Richard Bachman book, which I don't like. But he's also adapting The Jaunt, which is one of my favorite short stories by Stephen King. It's really good. It's more sci-fi than horror, but it's awesome. So I'm excited for that. So yay. So look out for The Jaunt coming who knows when, but it'll be awesome. All right. And those are my fun facts.
Thank you for your fun facts.
You're welcome.
All right, let's do Scary Scale. Hey, listeners.
Our scary scale is a scale we use to rank how scared we were when we watched the movie. It's not a ranking of the quality of the movie. It's how scared we were tonight in the theater when we watched this movie. We could also call it the how far did Todd's hat get pulled down over his face
Tad?
rank. How
Tad's
far
hat.
did Todd's hat get pulled down over his face ranking?
Todd?
Oh, God. All right, Tad, what you got?
Oh, God. I would give it a 7.
7?
It was definitely scary. Yeah. I gave the first one a 9, and I think it was just not quite as scary as the first one, but it was still very scary for me.
Mikey?
I'm going to give it a 5.
Okay. Cool.
All right.
I don't feel shamed. It's fine.
No.
Jen, what about you?
I'm going to give it a 4.
Oh, my God. Now I feel a little shamed.
Oh, no. And again, not a quality ranking. I love it.
No,
I was not
yeah.
particularly scared by any of it. And I think partly because I was just so on board with the metaphor and like how I was feeling about it.
Yeah.
Rather than, although there were some jump scares.
There were
got
some
me.
really creepy parts, and it's the first time I've seen it, so it's definitely scared me a little bit.
And now that I'm thinking about it, I'm bumping it up to 5 because there were several jump scares that got me. But while we were talking about it, we weren't talking about how scary it was. We were talking about, well, you were, yeah. But I was thinking about like how it made me feel.
Yeah, that's what I was
you
thinking.
know, and so I think, yeah.
So this week you guys made me watch It Chapter 2. What are you making me watch next week?
We are watching The Faculty next week.
Oh.
The listener request was so close.
Yes, it was.
Jennifer's Body beat The Faculty by 1 vote.
Yeah.
And Josh Hartnett is so dreamy. That we just decided
You're
to
gonna
go
like it. It's
for it.
not that scary.
That's what you always say, and I'm always scared.
That's not true.
Well, it's usually true. All right, well, cool. We'll watch The Faculty before next week. You've probably already seen it, but if you haven't, check it out. It's got
Josh Hartnett and Elijah Wood in it. Woo!
is that Matthew Broderick in it?
No, it's got Jon Stewart.
That was
Stewart.
Election. Oh, Jon Stewart today. That's right. So check it out, guys. I'm sure it's
But hold on.
Oh, sorry.
Because if you happen to be looking at the calendar right now, we may or may not have a special surprise for you. So if you're looking at the calendar, expect maybe an extra special surprise in your feed that might be the second part of something.
Yeah.
And
On
that's
Friday.
I can neither confirm nor deny any of this information. Yeah, so that's next. The Faculty and Winky Blinky.
Something
Who
before
knows?
then, maybe.
Yeah.
Question
Look
mark.
at your calendar.
Yeah. So we're going to read a 5-star review for you guys. If you want us to read your 5-star review, make sure to leave us a 5-star
Then
review.
leave one.
And then we'll read it for you. And if you would put in what accent you want Mikey to read it in, we'll do it that way. This one does not have an accent, though, right?
Yeah, but coming up, there might be a weird one.
All right, well, we'll see.
All right, so Benny Bear says, I grew up loving horror, and I found I don't have the stomach to watch it the older I get.
Hey, I hear you.
Yeah. I long to be part of the horror community,
Oh.
and this podcast hits the urge just right.
You are
Nice.
part of the horror community.
I'm glad we hit that spot.
Ooh,
Don't
just
do
right.
It's just
It's like a come hither motion, Mikey.
yeah, it's like
Let's continue.
let's make a tape. I love the perspectives on the show that are so nuanced
Aw.
and really explores the idea that movies can read differently depending on the persona.
And I
person.
think tonight's episode really kind of illustrated that too.
Yeah,
We
absolutely.
had a bonding moment, and I kind of liked
did.
it. It is shocking sometimes when one of the veterans gives a higher scary scale rating than Todd the Virgin.
That is shocking.
Yeah.
The fun facts and great chemistry between the hosts rounds out this really great podcast. definitely
Aw.
happy I gave it a listen after they gave me a follow on Insta.
Nice.
Oh, thank you so much for that review, Benny Bear. That
Yeah,
was
thank you so
really
much. That's awesome.
kind. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
We appreciate your kind words. Yeah. Hey, guys, leave us some reviews. It really means a lot.
And
to
it really
us.
helps other people find the show. All right, guys, we are a member of the Modern Horrors Podcast Network. You know the deal with that. If you're listening to us in their feed, make sure you switch over to our feed. You get it 2 days earlier. But if you're listening to it in their feed, you get Death, Dying, and Other Things, the Modern Horrors Podcast, and the lovely Final Girls.
And I want to give a special shout out because Luke Rodriguez is getting married this weekend. So
Oh,
congratulations, Luke.
Aw.
Luke. Guys, if you want to follow us on the socials at Horror Virgin, pretty much anywhere you can follow anyone. Mikey is at mrandolph24, Jen is at Jen Veratu, and I am at Todd J. Awesome. If you want to check out the blog and other tasty treats, go to horrorvirgin.com and check out, I guess, the things I just mentioned. Nerds.
Yeah.
Go check it out.
They're
What are you
awesome.
doing? Yeah.
I wrote a blog about Bev. Maybe I'll post it. So if you're looking to financially support the podcast, we're looking to price out some, if you want
We've already priced out some better electronic equipment to give you guys some better
It costs a lot
sound.
of money to
It
make me
does,
sound
yeah.
like an adult.
Yeah, so join our Patreon. We got a lot of exclusive stuff only for patrons. Right now, we're in the middle of a listener request.
Yes, we are.
And the only way to suggest and vote for that is to become a patron member. We got lots of fun bonuses for all different levels. So, yeah.
And we're going to use that money to buy better sound equipment. And that's the goal, at least. And it's going to take us quite a bit of time to get there. But we appreciate all you guys helping us in that endeavor. And if you can't afford to financially support the show, that is fine.
Yeah,
just
we
keep
understand.
doing what you're doing. And that is helping grow the family by telling your friends and family about the show. Please keep doing that. And, leaving reviews and stuff like that really helps too.
And you can also join the Facebook group, which is totally free.
The Facebook group is the best.
It is. Didn't you just post a Facebook exclusive, Too Hot for Horror Virgin post?
Yeah, so
One
if you
of
listen
Mikey's
to the commercials,
rejected pickup lines.
we record a lot of Mikey pickup lines, and some of them are too spicy for the pod.
Meaning
I
Jen
posted one of those. Yeah, it was well received though, and actually Rebecca responded to that. Did you see that?
Oh,
I
did
did see
she?
that.
All right, well we'll let you guys see what she said by going to the Facebook group and joining
Exactly.
up.
No spoilers.
Also, my mom posts a lot there now.
Yeah, that's not weird. All right, guys.
All right, guys, it's been 9,000 delightful hours. Thank you so much for joining us. We are tired.
We started this endeavor on Thursday, and it is now Friday morning.
That's right. Yeah.
And I have to edit this today.
Yeah.
And on top of all the work I have to do today because I have a job. So
Yeah. 4
we've
hours.
been recording for 3 hours and 20 minutes.
Thank you so much for joining us, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed this episode. We love you. Thank you. I'm Jen.
I'm Mikey, and I'll see you in 27 years because I can't do this again because I'm so tired.
And I'm your horror virgin Todd, guys. We'll see you next week or possibly
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Look at your calendar, guys.
Friday the 13th too.
Yeah.
The second digit of Todd's phone number is 1.